field. Christopher Morel went deep in the losing effort, but skipper David Ross says the Cubs did take 2 of 3.
That was a really good team. You saw how well they hit the ball today, just threw hits out all over, soft contact, hard contact, just a really well-rounded team they have over there. So to take 2 or 3 from them was really positive in my mind.
Drew Smyly starts for Chicago against the Pirates later on tonight. White Sox got a stellar start from Lance Lynn, more than stellar. But they still lost to the Mariners 5-1 in Seattle. Lynn was charged with his 8th loss of the season, in spite of striking out 16 Mariners and giving up just 3 runs in 7 innings of work. Wyndham Clark is celebrating his first major championship. Clark finishing on top of the leaderboard at the LA Country Club at 10 under par to win the U.S. Open. Got a feel for Ricky Fowler, who struggled with the Sunday greens at LACC, and the third-round leader did a major fade. NBA draft is this week. The Bulls do not hold a first or second-round pick, but that may change as there are trade rumors for Zach LaVine. Road to the College World Series heating up. TCU eliminates 7-seeded Virginia on Sunday. 2nd-seeded Florida held off Oral Roberts. So TCU and Oral Roberts will play in one elimination game, the next one being Stanford and Tennessee. U.S. claims its 2nd straight Concacaf Nations League title, beating Canada 2-0. The U.S. has beaten Canada in 22 straight home matches that date back to 1957. The news is a service of ComparionInsurance.com. Their agents are local insurance experts who can find the right insurance at the right price. Even though they're local experts, Comparion offers a wide range of choices from national carriers. Comparion Insurance Agency, local agents, expert advice. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Make sure that you never miss a day of Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson when you subscribe to the Chicago's Morning Answer podcast, presented by Signature Bank. Listen to the entire show each day on demand with limited commercial breaks. You can subscribe today for free at 560theanswer.com and click on podcasts or search for Chicago's Morning Answer on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest-growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Mick McDonald, co-founder of Configure One, the global leader in configure, price, and quote software for manufacturers, and a new customer of Signature Bank. Configure One recently came to Signature Bank for a loan under the Paycheck Protection Program after our previous business bank of 20 years left us out in the cold. When I called Signature, I worked directly with one of the founders of the bank, who assured me that my application would be submitted immediately. 1 week later, my loan was approved and funded, and I moved my entire banking relationship to Signature. Signature Bank is incredibly responsive, fully transparent, and a great partner for my business.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision into reality, visit signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank, helping local businesses succeed. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Ever notice how most people never leave online reviews unless they're really mad? And they want the entire world to know how bad their experience was. Rick from Forever Remodeling here, and we average 4.8 stars on 144 Google reviews. I know what you're thinking. Sure, 132 people gave you 5 stars, but what about those 12 who didn't? Glad you asked. 3 of them are 1-star reviews from people we never even did business with. Most of the rest are 4-star reviews from people who loved us and said things like, "We are thrilled and would recommend Forever Remodeling to anyone." So why only 4 stars? One customer sums it up: "I only gave 4 stars because I never give 5. Fair enough, I guess. Google foreverremodeling.com and see for yourself. The reviews are all right there. We do kitchens, baths, basements, whole homes, and additions. Check us out at foreverremodeling.com or call 847-809-3355. That's foreverremodeling.com.
It's 5:11. Let's get an update on the roads now. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. A couple of problem spots. Vehicle fire, Dan Ryan Express lanes. It's on the outbound side just before 63rd I-57 car versus deer accident. Vehicle being pulled out of the ditch. It's outbound right now at Pauling Road. Chicago's Morning Answer starts next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast. In the AM 560 Weather Center, our AccuWeather meteorologist, Steve Williams.
Today, times of sunny clouds, drought conditions worsening today, high 83. It'll be clear tonight, low 62. Sunny day tomorrow, the high 83. And then mostly sunny, warmer day on Wednesday, the high Wednesday afternoon, 87. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
65 at O'Hare, 63 Lakefront, 66 Midway, 60 in Aurora. Your next news update, 5:30. Chicago's Morning Answer starts next on AM 560, The Answer.
You don't need to starve yourself to achieve a healthy weight. Candace Rosen's latest book, Forget Dieting, eliminates the guesswork about weight loss. As the pioneer in glucose monitoring for weight loss and improved health, Candace Rosen believes the pancreas is the gatekeeper of poor health versus good health, weight loss versus weight gain. Whether tuning in or testing your blood glucose 90 minutes after you eat a meal or snack, you can leave dieting behind for good. Get the book today and start feeling better tomorrow. That's Forget Dieting at Barnes & Noble or Amazon. Candace Rosen believes in the practice of self-health. You are your primary caregiver, and your physician is just your secondary caregiver. Remember, it's never about the weight. It's about what excess weight represents, present or future poor health. Food is medicine. Forget Dieting. It's all about data-driven fueling. Order Forget Dieting. Available at Barnes & Noble or Amazon.
This is Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. The federal indictment of Donald Trump has prompted anger over the double standard employed by the Department of Justice. Trump followers see this as an extension of nearly 7 years of politicized prosecutions, starting with the 2-year Russia collusion hoax. The federal indictment of a political rival to a sitting president is not just unprecedented, but portends an endless cycle of vendettas in the years ahead. Republican primary contenders have raised all of these concerns. One, however, has a plan to break that cycle and depoliticize law enforcement. A well-timed leak from the Ron DeSantis campaign reveals the Florida governor's plan to decentralize and relocate the Department of Justice to keep the Beltway from unduly influencing its operation. DeSantis also plans to reorganize the FBI and to rid the Bureau of its most political actors. It needs to be more fully developed, but it's the first substantive policy solution to this crisis. Republicans can and should choose to solve the problem rather than perpetuate the cycle of vengeance.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, Doctors Economos, Gavalis, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidisciplined practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology, such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930. That's 630-830-4930. Or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
You're smart, you're busy, and don't have time to waste on the mainstream media cycle. Salem News Channel breaks that cycle. Topics that matter from hosts worth watching. Dinesh D'Souza, Andrew Wilkow, Brandon Tatum, and more. Open debate and free speech you won't find anywhere else. Salem News Channel, not like the other guys. Watch anytime on any screen, free 24/7. Find everything you need to know at snc.tv. That's snc.tv.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Didn't see any traffic on the roads coming in, so federal workers must be off.
Everybody's off. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Well, except for,
Yeah.
you know.
So it's always good when the government employees are off. Really opens up the roadways, doesn't it? So telling. See if it impacts your life in any meaningful way other than that. Yeah, over the weekend as well, in advance of today's Juneteenth holiday, there were alleged celebrations, including, of course, in Willowbrook, as I'm sure everybody's heard by now. Everybody may also be interested to learn that Willowbrook, according to your Chicago Press Corps, is a South suburban community. Willowbrook's in the South suburbs?
I didn't
It's
know
funny.
that.
They've got a lot of people that work for these affiliates that live in places like Hinsdale. Maybe somebody could go over and ask Allison Rosati where Willowbrook is. Chuck Gowdy? Anybody? Anybody know where Willowbrook is? ABC7 doesn't. Your Chicago Press Corps. And that was, of course, the least of their crimes. The top line coverage, both from the network affiliates here, the outpost of the D.C. Press Corps, keeping up appearances, as well as the law enforcement community, I'm talking, starting with the DuPage County Sheriff's Office, was that what happened at this mall in unincorporated Willowbrook over the weekend, where 23 were shot and one was killed, was part of a Juneteenth celebration. Was it?
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. You could also reach us on our text line, 64636. Type in DA, then a quick comment. Yeah, they said it was a mostly peaceful celebration. That is actually what Channel 7 reported.
Mm-hmm.
And I fell off my couch when I heard it.
Well, according to eyewitnesses, it wasn't so peaceful.
There was probably 150 cars or so and probably 300 to 400 people.
It was like a major gunfight for like 30 seconds. I'd say 60 plus, rounds. And you could tell it was like two different, groups of people shooting at each other.
Mm-hmm. Markeisha Avery, one of the eyewitnesses that was interviewed, it was supposed to be like a Juneteenth celebration. Really, how so?
What was the celebration?
12:30 a.m. in a mall parking lot was the venue you picked for your Juneteenth celebration. Really?
Near the Hinsdale Lake Terrace vicinity.
So, what was the program?
Who are the speakers?
Who was scheduled to read Major General Gordon Granger's proclamation freeing the slaves in Texas in 1865? Because I know these were a bunch of history-minded individuals who showed up. Were there other presenters? Was food served, catered, or potluck?
Did you break out into small groups?
For this Juneteenth celebration at 12:30 a.m. on Sunday morning at a mall parking lot in Willowbrook. And questioning the official narrative you're given from the DC Press Corps Chicago outpost is racist somehow. I didn't mention anything about race.
You didn't.
But a lot of people are making insinuations. For all I know, this was a bunch of guilt-ridden Hinsdale housewives hopped up on Pinot Grigio who showed up to this mall. I mean, they have the same sort of attitude and belief system. How do I know who was there? I don't know. I wasn't there. By the way, for those of you like the Greg Hineses of the world would say, young people or Hinsdale housewives, whoever was there, they have a right to blah blah. Really? Well, this was private property. This is a strip mall. This isn't Millennium Park. This wasn't a public space. It's a private space, private property. And as you heard from the eyewitnesses, 150 to 300 cars, and then the gunfight ensues. Apparently, the silliness extends beyond the city of Chicago. Maybe this wakes up residents of DuPage County. Because, oh, by the way, ABC7, that's where Willowbrook is. Burr Ridge, Hinsdale, Willowbrook.
It's a south suburb.
Maybe it does, and I bet you it doesn't. Maybe it does, and it wakes some people up in DuPage County, and I bet you it doesn't.
And if you want to see battle, it was a battle. One guy said two groups are just One rolled up and they just started shooting and would not stop, and then people got trampled on. But Governor Pritzker honed in on this, so has Brandon Johnson. I don't know why it's not.
So
your
is President
city.
Biden. They issued a statement saying your Juneteenth community celebration. Really?
The President and First Lady and I are thinking of those killed and injured in the shooting in Illinois last night. We've reached out to offer assistance to state and local leaders in the wake of this tragedy at a community Juneteenth celebration.
What local what assistance? Like how? What assistance are you going to give? You going to help pick up the bullet casings? Craig and Burr Ridge on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, this is no Juneteenth celebration. This is a little strip mall right there outside of Burr Ridge, unincorporated Burr Ridge.
In the south suburbs.
This goes on every night, this little strip mall. And, I live in the townhouses that are right behind these apartments. This is all unincorporated. And we got like a 10-foot high fence with barbed wire on top that separates us from these apartments. And they've got trouble there all the time. It's constant. So this is nothing new over there. There's no celebration. There's no carnival. This is just loitering is all it is every single damn night. So,
thanks for the
and it's unincorporated.
And by the way, Craig, has anybody put DuPage County Sheriff's Office has coverage. And so has anybody put pressure on the DuPage County Sheriff's Office? Have you, with respect to the proprietor of this mall?
No. And they messed up my Father's Day breakfast over there at Chicago Waffles, too. I'm a little upset about that. So.
I understand.
That's even worse than
Thanks for the call, Craig.
But the battalion chief, they said they were monitoring the situation, but were called away to answer a 911 call.
I'm sorry.
But, how do you let 150 people gather? It's 12:30 at night. What about curfew violations? You can start there, something simple.
Do they got written permission to access this private property? Who greenlighted that? And monitoring the situation. What do you do? Monitoring a mostly peaceful Juneteenth celebration. Why would you monitor that? It's just a bunch of people getting together to recall the history of America. Right? Celebrate this this holiday today, and the freeing of the slaves in Texas. That's why everybody was there. So why the need for monitoring? What do they know about that mall that Craig from Burr Ridge knows about that mall as a meeting spot?
They're still looking for the gunman, by the way. Yeah.
John in Naperville.
No one's in custody.
Yeah, obviously all these people got together through social media to meet up. So you mean to tell me that the police, the FBI, and all that can't monitor that and get ahead of the game? And also, can't they track who started this, put it together, and hold them accountable under, I don't know, maybe like a RICO statute or something like that?
Thanks for the call. Well, I mean, certainly they were aware, and certainly if and when they apprehend any of the individuals who were responsible for the gunfight, then Bob Berlin will prosecute them to the best of his ability until and unless the Safety Act goes into effect, which will hamstring that.
What are the ages of the victims? Why are you withholding that information? And they're taking it to hospitals all over the DuPage, Cook, and Will counties. How young were these kids? Are you just hoping that this goes away, that we don't ask more questions?
Frank and Lamont.
Hey, good morning, gang. You know what? People really need to wake up in these, and that's not the southern suburbs. That's the southwest suburbs out there where the Champagne socialists all hang out. These are a bunch of thugs. These are a bunch of thugs like the ones that invaded the Tinley Park Carnival, the ones that have forced Orland Park and the other places to either cancel or ramp up enforcement to make sure these morons don't show up there. Hey, wake up, Chicago. You got a culture problem. The two lily whites that they found to complain about the guns, okay, being the reason for what happened, really need to look at what's going on. I don't hear the word gang anymore. Have you heard it anymore, Dan? Is that no longer part of the lexicon? That we've got gangbangers running around now. Congratulations. Trump warned you. They've left the city. They've moved into the suburbs. They've turned these apartment buildings and condo complexes and business areas into, I can't even use the word on radio, but people, you better wake up. You got a culture problem. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the call, Frank. Yeah, maybe the big guy will fly in to help because he's offered his help.
Yeah.
Over the weekend, he was babbling on about his gun control accomplishments. Not dissimilar to what you'll hear from a Jelly Belly and from many, many urban Pauls as well as suburban Pauls. I'm sure Governor Pritzker will be at a podium today at that mall in Willowbrook like he was in Highland Park to talk about the need for gun control, right?
No,
Won't he?
he's not. He doesn't have anything on his schedule today.
Why wouldn't he be at this mall if he was at Highland Park High School after that mass shooting? Why wouldn't he come to this mall to make the same point?
Oh, the shell casings are still there. It looks like a war scene.
Why wouldn't he come to this mall? What's the difference?
And stop saying south suburbs. People wake up. I mean, CNN, NBC, everything. The shooting happened in the south suburb of Willowbrook.
Joe Biden babbling on about his accomplishments, much like you would hear a Jelly Belly do if he would come to this mall in Willowbrook that he won't come to. Gosh, again, try to process this. What would be the difference between that and Highland Park? Gosh,
I don't know.
I wonder.
Made it harder for people to buy stabilized bracelets. Put a pistol on a brace, it turns into a gun. Makes it more, you can have a higher caliber weapon, a higher caliber bullet coming out of that gun.
You heard him. That's what President Biden did. The big guy, braces that put a brace on a pistol and it turns it into a gun.
Did you say a brace or a bracelet?
And then you fire it and it shoots. Somehow it magically turns the bullets in the magazine into higher caliber bullets. What? Now, not anymore, though, because of what Joe Biden has done.
Ouch.
This is who is at the ready to help you residents of the south suburbs in and around Willowbrook. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
If you're talking about it, Dan and Amy are talking about it. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
It's summertime, and you want to keep the shop, warehouse, and other doors open for ventilation. Air circulation improves the well-being of your employees and customers, but open doors can let in the uninvited, like strangers, birds, rodents, and bugs. Industrial Door Company of Chicago, Inc. can help solve the problem with a full line of commercial screen door products designed with these specific problems in mind. Call Industrial Door Company of Chicago, Inc. now. Also, regular scheduled maintenance is the key, and Industrial Door Company of Chicago, Inc. has multiple levels of maintenance programs for your company's needs and budget. They'll ensure your doors, grills, gates, and dock equipment are working to specification to increase the useful life of your doors. Visit their website to see a range of products and services at industrialdoor.com. Call anytime, 847-258-5620. Their team will be there to assist in designing a solution that works best for you. Since 1982, the Industrial Door Company of Chicago, Inc. takes care of your doors so you can take care of business.
Are you looking for an interview podcast where you can be entertained and informed? Come check out our new podcast, America's Talking, to hear conversations with great stand-up comedians like Mark Normand.
Norm made you feel smarter than him, even though he was smarter than you.
As well as with leaders in the United States, like former Ambassador Andrew Bremberg.
I remember the fall of the evil empire. When the wall fell, every adult I saw was crying.
I'm your host, Austin Berg, and I want you to join the conversation on our new podcast, America's Talking, right now on Spotify.
Are you looking for a new podcast where you can get your national news from a taxpayer's perspective? Check out the America in Focus podcast featuring the Center Square's Dan McCaleb.
This jobs report, in some ways, it contradicts what I'm seeing anecdotally.
And Casey Harper.
And it's not just the economy. He has a 28% approval on the economy, but he also has 36% approval on foreign policy.
Find America in Focus wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe. That's America in Focus, a news podcast from a taxpayer's perspective.
AM 560, The
Answer. Text from listener directly next door to the strip mall where the shooting took place is a apartment complex called Acclaim. It might as well be a housing project. In Willowbrook? No. In the suburbs?
The south.
Oh, heavens. You don't say.
Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
The kids being silly, making silly decisions. They weren't just out in Willowbrook. They were out in the city, too. And the history you don't know and you won't hear from the establishment media about Juneteenth at 5:38.
But now let's head straight into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott. Good morning, Mike.
Amy and Dan, 62 at 5:32, and a violent weekend has left at least 5 dead and dozens injured in shootings across the country. Shootings claim victims in Washington State, St. Louis, Southern California, Baltimore, and in Pennsylvania, where a state trooper was killed during an attack on a state police barracks.
Our hearts and prayers are with these brave troopers and their families. Their dedication and service to the Commonwealth and its residents will always be remembered.
Denver recovering after violent attackers opened fire on victims, leaving 20 hurt and 3 dead over the weekend.
Unfortunately, we have, again, far too many guns in our society, far too many individuals that act irresponsibly with guns, and that's certainly something that we as a community need to continue to address.
Denver's police chief with his opinion. 2 are reported dead, 3 injured after a shooting at an EDM festival in Washington State. Kyle Foreman is with the Grant County Sheriff's Office.
The shooter continued to shoot randomly into the crowd, and the suspect was eventually taken into custody.
In news from Washington this morning, former Attorney General Bill Barr says former President Trump puts his followers and the GOP agenda, in his opinion, at risk.
He's also a fundamentally flawed person who engages in reckless conduct and that leads to situations, calamitous situations like this.
Barr on CBS's Face the Nation. Meantime, Secretary of State Antony Blinken meeting today with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing. Chair of the House Intelligence Committee says China is beginning to feel heat from the U.S.
In addition to the spy balloon, the allegations of spying facilities in Cuba, the police stations that have been identified by the administration in the United States, they're spying on Chinese and American citizens.
Speaking on CNN State of the Union, Republican Congressman Mike Turner. An investigation this morning continues near Willowbrook. Authorities say gunfire erupted early yesterday during a so-called Juneteenth weekend gathering in a strip mall parking lot near Route 83 and Honeysuckle Rose Lane. 1 person was killed, 22 more wounded. There is no one in custody. In Chicago, 2 are dead, 3 others wounded following a shooting at a park on the far south side. A bus driver is accused of driving drunk while taking the Pirates from Chicago to Milwaukee last week. Reports say the Illinois State Police stopped that bus they were escorting out of Chicago after the Pirates lost to the Cubs when troopers noticed the erratic driving of one Ronald Funderburk. Divers in northwest Indiana pulled a drowning victim out of a suburban lake on Sunday afternoon.
A victim was recovered at around 2:49 p.m. by the divers. Indiana DNR is handling this investigation.
Hobart Fire Department Assistant Chief John Reitz. Cubs blow a 1-run lead in their 6-3 loss to the Orioles at Wrigley, but take 2 of 3 over the weekend. White Sox got a stellar start from Lance Lynn, 16 strikeouts. Somehow they lost to the Mariners 5-1. Wyndham Clark is your U.S. Open champion. In the news, the service of MyPillow, big news, brand new MyPillow 2.0. Buy one, get one free with promo code Liberty. It's machine washable, dryable, 60-day money-back guarantee. MyPillow.com, promo code Liberty. And a check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
The Sean Thompson Show.
The feeble fascist and the entire upper echelon of the Democrat Party is a big, giant, pay-to-play scheme mafia. They get to lie with impunity, and they lie knowingly. And what does the lie lead to? The fact that the sitting president, although he doesn't know it and he's sitting in his own urine, the sitting president is an asset of enemies, foreign. We know. And we also know about the domestic, but we're used to unions.
The Sean Thompson Show, weekday afternoons at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Visit Dennis Prager. Sign up today for an unforgettable experience in Israel this October. Mike Gallagher and I are traveling to the Holy Land on the Stand with Israel tour with our trusted partner, Inspiration Cruises and Tours. This trip of a lifetime to Israel is one you don't want to miss. Register today before it's too late at standwithisraeltour.com, standwithisraeltour.com, or call 855-565-5519. 855-565-5519.
When life ends, your legacy begins. Ensure your legacy lives on at Catholic Cemeteries of Chicago, with 47 locations throughout Cook and Lake counties. Take advantage of 0% financing, lock in today's prices, and safeguard yourself against rising inflation. Visit CatholicCemeteryChicago.org or call 708-236-5490 to schedule a free consultation today.
Attention to all homeowners, contractors, and realtors. It's Sean Thompson. Do you have unwanted items cluttering your space? Whether it's old furniture, boxes, and appliances, or yard waste and renovation debris. There's no job too big or too small for Junk Jaws. They charge a flat fee for space your junk takes up on their truck. You pay for the space, and they supply the labor, removal, and disposal. They will even disassemble large items to make it easier for hauling. Junk Jaws is family-owned and operated by the children of parents I know, so you won't be paying for those high franchise fees. I only know entrepreneurs. What really makes Junk Jaws different from the competition is that they will donate lightly used small appliances, clothing, and furniture to local donation centers. Junk Jaws is reasonable, speedy, and professional. Look at the reviews. Junk Jaws has over 100 five-star reviews and counting. Declutter your space today. You can book directly online at junkjaws.com or over the phone at 833-586-5529. They even offer same-day estimates and pickups. Junk Jaws.
Progressive Insurance. Progressive can protect your home, auto, boat, motorcycle, ATV, RV, and more. In short, a lot of things. Bundle today at progressive.com.
5:38. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Traffic building already on the inbound Kennedy, 21 O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Seeing delays develop, normal delays. Ashland into the Dan Ryan on the inbound Stevenson. Stop and go on the Dan Ryan Express lanes inbound between Pershing and the Stevenson. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Times of sun and clouds. And for the entire week, those drought conditions will worsen. High of 83, clear and 62 overnight. Sunny and 83 tomorrow. 62 at O'Hare, 66 at Midway, and 57 in Lansing. Your next news update is at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Just updating the body count over the weekend. We were focused on, of course, that mass shooting in Willowbrook and the official story you were getting from the Chicago Press Corps. That really doesn't hold up under scrutiny, does it? We're efforting to get DuPage County Sheriff James Mendrick on the show to give us an update on the situation this morning. We'll let you know about that. But in Chicago, there were some kids being silly, as will happen.
As some adults. I mean, we had a shooting a few hours ago in Roseland. 5 shot, 2 killed.
You don't demonize kids being silly. We know this from BLM Brandon. Near Lincoln Park Zoo overnight, a friend of mine who lives up that way was surprised to find on Sunday morning that the farmer's market couldn't set up around Lincoln Park because of the police tape, because where they normally set up was a crime scene. 5 people were shot, 4 critically near Lincoln Park Zoo.
Well, it's near the petting part of the zoo, so those animals could have gotten shot too. I'm just saying it's in that section of Lincoln Park where, I mean, there's no law and order anywhere.
New details emerging about a shooting that left a man critically injured in River North on Saturday evening. Oh, River North. That's a fun entertainment area. Have you been there lately? Don't go.
Yeah, it's been bad for a while.
A shooting. Upwards of 50 shell casings.
Oh, that's
In other
50?
words,
Okay.
Lucky there was just one
Yeah.
person shot. In Sanctuary City news, ICE announced this week it had arrested a illegal immigrant from Mexico who was convicted of sexual assault of a child, but on parole and later escaped monitoring. He was convicted in Cook County in 2019, sentenced to 6 years. But in April, so that would be 4 years, he was paroled. He cut the electronic monitoring off and absconded. And that led to ICE. And we don't cooperate with them here, remember, in Cook County and Chicago in the state of Illinois, because we're a welcoming place for, foreign nationals who are convicted sex offenders. We like to be welcoming to these individuals. We don't want to make them feel uncomfortable here. Okay? So, yes, sometimes we have to put them away for a little bit, but then they come out, cut your electronic monitoring off. And our local law enforcement is handcuffed, not allowed to work with federal law enforcement. Because you wouldn't want this individual deported. That would be unwelcoming. He was captured by ICE. However, he will not be yet deported. He will be returned to Illinois DOC, where he'll be expected to complete a sentence since he violated the terms of his parole. And then he'll be let out here, and he'll cut his electronic monitoring again, and you'll have another violent predator on the streets here because we're welcoming.
God, and I loved Sheriff Joe Arpaio, Maricopa County, because he had ICE right next to his jail. So when they got out of jail, they went straight into ICE's hands and then were deported. But we don't do that here because we're a sanctuary city.
Welcoming place.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah, welcoming. We like to be welcoming. Oh, and by the way, just another, this is sort of an aside, but it's relevant, especially since we have the power structure in the city and the state very concerned about the Catholic Church. So much so that Kwame Raoul felt compelled the day before the tax credit scholarship was going to be eliminated, for poor, mostly minority children to go to better schools. Don't want that here. What's our cover story? What's the cover story for Black and Latino legislators that are preventing their constituents, many of them, from sending their kids to better schools than the neighborhood schools that haven't educated pretty much anyone in generations? Need a cover story. Got it. Catholic schools, haven for sexual predators, because the Catholic Church is. So Kwame Raoul, you may remember, go back in your memory banks all of, 4 weeks. And he does this Sawing of Sawdust, this report where there was not one new case of accused of alleged sexual assault that he presented in his report. Not a new case. I think he didn't even remember how far back the last case was. It was at least 2008, maybe more like 2002. Didn't matter. You had to smear the church. And Cardinal Supich was happy to oblige because he and Jelly Belly are friends, which is nice. So that is the backdrop to this. Chicago public school teacher charged Friday with predatory criminal sexual assault and exploitation of children. Crimes that prosecutors said involved 3 of his former students. This said Federico Garcia Lorca Elementary School in Avondale. Boys between 8 and 11 at the time began visiting this teacher's house, 36-year-old teacher's house, to play video games, watch movies, spend the night.
What is this?
Play dice game where whoever rolled the lowest number had to expose their private parts or engage in touching. What is there? Anybody interested? No, I know nobody's interested in CPS and sexual predators there, except maybe the Inspector General's office. At least they reported on it. I understand the Chicago Press Corps isn't interested in this. I understand that CPS parents are by and large not interested in this. I understand that Chicago residents are not interested in this. I understand the entire political power structure in the city and the state not interested in that. But maybe some of you are, so I thought I'd share. So today is Juneteenth. Juneteenth holiday. And it's Juneteenth, June 19th. And we're observing, as we mentioned, with this alleged Juneteenth gathering in Willowbrook, we're observing proclamation freeing the slaves in the state of Texas back in 1865. Major General Gordon Granger issuing said proclamation. And what will it be like today? The Juneteenth observations, the events. What will the contents be? To talk of reparations, perhaps? Talk of systemic racism? The need for anti-racist training in every institution that we've ceded control of? You think those will be the high points in most of the discussions today? I do. There's a different way to look at it. History we don't know, as well as the present we don't know. I'll give you a couple examples. I'm involved with a group called Envision Unlimited, which is a social service provider that provides services to persons with disabilities, intellectual or physical, who are adults and who've aged out of the system, including housing and 24/7 care for those who need it. But the real goal is to assimilate people with disabilities into larger society as much as possible, including for those who are have a disability but are high functioning, the workforce, which is great. I'm fully supportive of. Well, there's an event coming up at Envision, and I'm not doing this to just promote this nonprofit I'm involved with, but more to promote how you can talk about these things in an intelligent way. And by the way, as most of these social service providers, the Envision Unlimited is dominated by people who are left of center, and in some cases, way left of center. But nonetheless, the leadership there does a good job staying away from hewing to the orthodoxy of Chicago and Illinois' political culture. Somebody was mentioning, when we were talking about Willowbrook, the culture problem in Chicagoland in particular. There's an event coming up, a cycling event, and it is going to take place on the Major Taylor Trail, which I didn't really know about because I'm not.
You don't like cyclists.
I'm not a proponent of cycling, but a cycling event, if that's good for people, I'm not. I'm not a proponent of making it illegal either.
Well, it sounds like a great fundraiser.
Major Taylor, though, too. Marshall Walter Major Taylor. An important person that probably few people know about, even though this actually, shockingly, in Chicago, an appropriate namesake for a trail, an appropriate namesake for a public space. You don't get a lot of those to celebrate. So this is the point. It's not always negativity here, as some accuse me of. It's looking for examples to share that reflect a counterculture to the prevailing culture in Chicago and Illinois. And what better time to do that than on Juneteenth? So here's a little video that Envision put together, talking about the event and talking about Major Taylor, the history we don't know, examples from America's past that probably have more relevance to the present, at least if you want the next generation of young people to be successful, than much of what they're learning in school or from this culture here in Chicagoland.
Hey there, everyone. This is your friendly neighborhood Z-Man, and I want you to join us on Juneteenth, Monday, June 19th, as we ride for freedom along the Major Taylor Trail. This is the second event of Envision Unlimited's Summer of Cycling, a series of cycling events we're holding throughout Chicago all summer long. The Major Taylor Trail is a bicycle and pedestrian trail that was created in the late 1990s between the Dan Ryan Woods in Chicago and Whistler Woods in Riverdale. It was named after Marshall Walter Major Taylor, the son of an African-American Civil War veteran born on November 26, 1878 in Indianapolis, Indiana. From a young age, he displayed an incredible passion for cycling, mastering his skills on the local streets as a newspaper delivery boy and performing bicycle tricks at a local bike shop. People called him Major because he always wore a soldier's uniform when he was performing his bike tricks. He quickly gained recognition for his remarkable speed as he broke records and captured the hearts of spectators around the world. He shattered numerous world records, including the 1-mile sprint, becoming the fastest cyclist of his time. In 1896, at the age of just 18, he became the first African American to win a national championship in cycling. Now, regardless of his skill and speed, Major Taylor still faced tremendous adversity, not only on the racetrack, but also off of it. He encountered discrimination at every turn, from fellow racers who refused to compete against him to audience members hurling racial slurs. But through it all, he never wavered in his determination. He competed in and won races in Australia, New Zealand, and throughout Europe. He retired from racing at the age of 32 in 1910. At Envision Unlimited, we're dedicated to supporting and promoting choice, independence, and inclusion by providing evolving care with empathy every time, everywhere. And our adaptive cycling program is the perfect example of how we do just that. From singles to tandems to the groundbreaking duet bike. Learn how the adaptive cycling program is changing the lives of people with disabilities by creating experiences for them and empowering them to be more mobile, independent, and out in their communities.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 646-36DA, turnkey.pro text line. So you can tell stories about inspirational people across the range of identity without falling into the typical identitarian victimization agitprop. Telling stories of overcoming adversity rather than entitlement, that's real advocacy. It's just why I stick with Envision, even though most of those involved are not fans of my political philosophy. And which is why I rail against the Chicagoland culture as it currently exists, as we get grotesque illustrations of every single weekend, every single day, really. So go ahead and come with your predictable bloviations about race on this day. Men and women of the lobotomized left. And I'll talk about, we'll go over your coverage of something like what happened in Willowbrook to show how dishonest you are. And we'll celebrate people like Major Taylor and the people who remember them, because they're actually in the business of trying to inspire young people to overcome what adversity comes their way, whether it is self-inflicted or otherwise. One of the best storytellers when it comes to this is Bob Woodson. I mean, we've had him on the show many times. He always talks about celebrating the heroes from America's past who overcame adversity to provide examples for people in the present. So he wrote over the weekend about Lawrence Jones, somebody else I didn't know. You can learn a lot by reading, but if you got to be able to read. How's CPS doing on that score? How are the suburban schools doing in terms of creating lifelong learners? Yeah. In 1918, Lawrence Jones was about to be lynched when his persecutors told him he had one last chance to speak for himself. Any last words? Why was he going to be lynched? He was teaching poor black children to read. So Lawrence Jones told them about the Piney Woods Country Life School that he established in Piney Woods, Mississippi. What he was doing there. He also described the charity and goodness of the white men in their community, his community, who had vouched for the mission of his school. He moved the men who gathered to kill him so deeply that they passed around a hat to collect funds for his school. Jones raised $52 for his school that night that he was to be lynched. As Bob Woodson writes, astonishingly, Jones didn't ever reflect on this moment with bitterness or anger, saying, quote, I have no time to quarrel and no time for regrets, and no man can force me to stoop low enough to hate him. As Woodson continues, Jones embodied a number of remarkable traits all at once: responsibility, humility, self-respect, grit, and prudence. All these qualities help him forge the relationships necessary to found Piney Woods and bring it to maturation over time. His vision and character made possible the emancipation of countless young black men and women, not from slavery this time, but from ignorance. He eschewed the narratives of victimhood. Oh, and by the way, that Piney Woods School in Mississippi exists to this day.
Good.
So there's a choice for you on this Juneteenth. Feel free, if you're going to be part of a Juneteenth gathering, like a real one, not the phony one that allegedly happened at that mall in Willowbrook, to share the stories of Lawrence Jones, to share the stories of Major Taylor, to challenge the official story you're going to get in this culture we have in Chicagoland.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Are you a driver of a Ford Power Stroke diesel engine? Tired of taking your Ford Power Stroke diesel in to be misdiagnosed or paying for repairs that don't fix the problem? Well, bring your vehicle to the diesel headquarters, Remke's Garage. The shop is equipped with state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment and highly trained technicians. Take it to the experts. Take it to Remke's Garage. Remke's Garage specializes in Ford Power Stroke, Chevy Duramax, Dodge Cummins, Mercedes Sprinter, and Isuzu diesel engines and transmission repairs. At Remke's, they'll make your vehicle repairs convenient by offering a free commercial loaner vehicle.
Remke's Garage, where you won't spend $1,000 to fix a $100 problem. Call for details and to schedule an appointment at 800-5-REMKES or visit remkesgarage.com. Remke's Garage, your diesel headquarters.
America First with Sebastian Gorka, today at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer. News, opinion, insight. This is AM 560, The Answer. WIND Chicago. Streaming at 560theanswer.com. On the AM 560 mobile app. Tune in, iHeart, and on Odyssey.
It's Juneteenth. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, and it's a federal holiday. President Biden signed into law in 2021.
Saying at a celebration last week, it was more than just a symbolic gesture.
It was a statement of fact for this country to acknowledge the origin of the original sin of slavery.
Juneteenth dates back to the Civil War, commemorating June 19th, 1865, when Union troops informed black slaves in Galveston, Texas, that they were free.
That's Fox's Jared Halpern. There was a shooting early Sunday at a Juneteenth celebration in Willowbrook, Illinois, outside Chicago. One person was killed, 22 wounded. No suspects are in custody. Another early Sunday shooting left one person dead, 9 injured in St. Louis, where Police Chief Robert Tracy says
it should be prohibited that juveniles do not carry guns. It should be prohibited. This is the first state and city that I come to where juveniles are not prohibited. It should at least mirror the federal law.
A 17-year-old is in custody. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's in China for the first time since he took that job, and Blinken just met with leader Xi Jinping, who has said that 2 days of U.S. talks have made progress, though tensions been rising with China over TikTok, Taiwan, the Chinese spy balloon, and recent military encounters in the air and at sea.
This is more of a door opener, if you will, to resume high-level face-to-face meetings. The Chinese Foreign Ministry not sounding very optimistic, saying relations between both countries are now at, quote, their lowest point since its establishment punishment.
Fox's Lucas Tomlinson. It's up to 4 Palestinians dead in a West Bank clash with Israeli troops after militants set off a roadside bomb that injured 7 Israelis. There's a funeral today for the 5 women aged 17 to 20 killed in a car crash Friday night in Minneapolis after a driver ran a red light.
They were actually on their way home from running last-minute errands just a day before their friend's wedding was set to take place at the time of the crash. A Launch Good fundraiser to support the victims has already raised $340,000.
That's Kevin.
62 degrees. At 6:02 on AM 560, The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. It was a violent weekend across the country. Shooting victims in Washington State, St. Louis, Southern California, Baltimore, and Pennsylvania, as an investigation continues following a deadly shooting near Willowbrook. Authorities say gunfire erupted early yesterday during an illegal gathering in a strip mall parking lot near Route 83 and Honeysuckle Rose Lane. 1 person was killed, 22 more were wounded.
We just started heard the shoot come from behind us, so we dropped down.
1 person was killed. No one, according to authorities, is in custody.
And out of nowhere, it was like a major gunfight for like 30 seconds. I'd say 60 plus, rounds.
In other news we're following this morning, 2 are dead, 3 others are wounded following a shooting at a park on Chicago's far south side. It happened last night in the 9900 block of South Princeton in the Roseland community. So far, no arrests. A bus driver is accused of driving drunk while taking the Major League Baseball Pittsburgh Pirates from Chicago to Milwaukee last week. Illinois State Police stopped the bus they were escorting out of Chicago after the Pirates' loss when they noticed the erratic driving of Ronald Funderburk. He was arrested at the scene. Divers in northwest Indiana pulled a drowning victim out of a suburban lake on Sunday afternoon. Hobart Fire saying officers responded to Robinson Lake just before 1 p.m.
Terrible tragedy in Hobart, but we must remind you about water safety. Please, please be safe in the water. We've had way too many incidents over the recent years, especially here at Robinson Lake.
Assistant Chief John Reitz, witnesses telling officers a female went under the water. Officers went into the lake to search, but initially were unable to find her. A body found over the weekend in the Chicago River was that of a man who went missing during a concert last week on the north side. Noah Enos' body was recovered from the river Saturday. He was last seen alive at the Salt Shed venue on North Elston. Cubs blow a 1-run lead in a 6-3 loss to the Orioles at Wrigley. White Sox got a stellar start from Lance Lynn, 16 strikeouts, but he got hung with a loss, 5-1 to the Mariners. NBA draft this week. Bulls do not hold a first or second round pick, but that may change. There are trade rumors for Zach LaVine. The news service of the AM 560 mobile app. Text the word app to 64636. And a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dennis Prager says it's time to get informed.
Ignorance is a sin. When bad things are happening, ignorance is willful. If you don't know what Disney is doing to everything associated with children, you have decided to tune out and let others fight.
The Dennis Prager Show. Weekdays at 11, right before Charlie Kirk at 1 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Born on America's darkest day of 9/11, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has been supporting the heroes who risk life and limb in the line of duty ever since. Jersey City Police Detective Joseph Seals was shot and killed in the line of duty in 2019, days before Christmas. He left behind his wife and 5 children. Tunnel to Towers immediately paid off their mortgage thanks to your generosity. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. That's T2T.org.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
So I figured turning 65, I'd try Balance of Nature to see why not, give it a shot. And it's absolutely changed my life. I'm going to cry. I have more energy now than I did when I was in my 40s. It's brought back my life to me, and it's given me the energy that I was so missing, and I wasn't enjoying life because of it, and now I am. So I just wanted to thank Dr. Doug for everything he's done with this, and truly it has changed my life.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order. That's 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
I'm Dave Nissen, CEO of PKF Mueller. As a CPA firm, we have been serving our business clients since 1968 by providing audit, accounting, tax, advisory, and consulting services. We as trusted advisors go beyond what our clients hired us to do by thinking outside the box to understand their operations and industry. We want to discover ways to increase their net income and cash flow by reducing costs or increasing efficiencies. To this end, PKF Mueller provides several client value-added services through strategic relationships. Our partners are specialists and serve the same type of clients that we do and add value by reducing our clients' overall electric and gas costs, discovering inaccuracies and overcharges on utility bills, assisting in financing of real estate, and helping to reduce uncollectible accounts and bad debt expenses. To learn more about our value-added service providers and how we can assist, call me directly at 630-524-5274 or dnissen@pkfmueller.com.
6:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is a service of the Barbecue Authority, your go-to for the largest selection of grills, smokers, outdoor products. Visit the Lyle showroom or online at bbqauthority.com. Kennedy inbound, fairly pedestrian 24 minutes right now. O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The outbound side, though, lots of folks leaving, heading out to the big airport this morning. You're jammed up from the tri-state into the airport, 25 minutes on the outbound side. Ike outbound right now, disabled vehicle blocking a right-hand lane just after Central Park Boulevard. Jane Addams accident, I-90 eastbound, right near the tri-state. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Sun and clouds today. The dry period continues. High 83. Clear tonight, low 62. And then sunny tomorrow. The high again at 83. Sunny and a bit warmer on Wednesday. High Wednesday afternoon, 87. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560. The Answer.
6:09. Time to visit signaturebank.bank and time to check those updated temperatures. 62 at O'Hare. 63 along the lakefront. Your next news update is at 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560. The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Now that we've gotten a chance to catch our breath from the latest Trump indictment by the feds a little more than a week ago, actually coming on 2 weeks, Where do you stand in terms of Trump as the Republican nominee, Trump in terms of his electability in a general election? I ask because there's some new numbers out from Harvard Harris. That's a polling outfit that's run by Mark Penn, former Hillary Clinton pollster. So where do you stand on Trump? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 646-36DA, turnkey.pro text line. We need to do a little stop, look, and listen, a little politics here, straight electoral politics. But, of course, the cultural dynamics inform these numbers. 58% of Americans think the federal government's case against Trump is strong. Of course, this is driven by 85% of Democrats versus only 30% of Republicans and a majority of independents. 58% thinks the case against Trump is strong. If Trump is convicted, 53% of voters, all voters, support pardoning him in the interest of national unity. Maybe we think what he did was wrong, but it's not wrong enough, or it's maybe not so dissimilar to what other people have done in a different political party that we shouldn't just move past this. Perhaps that's a summation of the majority view. Well, for those of you who are arguing that, as Peggy Noonan did on Friday in the Wall Street Journal, Peggy, boy, she sort of lost her handle, on things. As much as I liked her during the Reagan era as one of his speechwriters. She wrote in the Wall Street Journal on Friday that the indictment could only hurt Trump. Well, 59% of Republicans would choose Trump in a GOP primary after the indictment. Obviously, the survey recently taken. 59%. He's hovering at 60% of the Republican primary vote. They say, well, that's not very strong for a former president of the United States. Well,
he's beating the competition.
There are many candidates, and there is a candidate that has generated a lot of enthusiasm and interest for good reason, and that's, of course, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and yet he's more than lapping the field. And this piece of it, too, now this is more complicated than the top line. He would beat, Trump, Biden in a general election 45-39. So he's up 6 points on Biden, according to Harvard Harris. And as I've been saying for a couple of weeks now, the problem that DeSantis and the other candidates have when they suggest that Trump is unelectable is he's up 6 points on Biden. You know, he's doing as well or better than his challengers in these hypothetical matchups with the big guy. Now, again, that doesn't tell you the whole story because it's not a national popular vote. So what Trump's numbers are, as I was saying last week about this, in, say, suburban Milwaukee, Wisconsin, swing state, in suburban Charlotte, North Carolina, swing state, may provide more pause for those just simply looking at the top line and saying Trump can win and he can, maybe you could argue that DeSantis or somebody else has more upside potential in the swing states that matter, the suburban areas in the swing states that matter than does Trump. 45-39, you could argue, yeah, Dan, but Trump caps out at 45 or maybe a couple points more, but he doesn't get to 50. And if he doesn't get to 50, then he's got a problem.
Well, what is DeSantis's campaign? Are they doing something wrong? Why he's not surging higher in the polls? I mean, this bridge collapse on I-95, I think, is a great opportunity for him to remind America that he built a temporary bridge to Sanibel Island 3 weeks before it was supposed to be done. Like, he gets stuff done. He helps people.
Yeah, it is a good opportunity.
Honestly,
yeah,
that bridge was built in 2 weeks. It was amazing. He saved lives.
I agree with that.
Even Democrats in Florida were like, you know what? This man's cool, and I'm going to support him.
Yeah, but it's got to be more than what you did versus what the left is doing. I mean, this is my, and we'll talk to Ken Cuccinelli at the bottom of the 7 o'clock hour, who's running the super PAC that's supporting DeSantis.
Okay,
Talk to him a little bit about that. Because
Do you have any suggestions?
I've given the suggestion, and I'll give it again, which is that he hasn't answered the why question. Everyone knows what Trump's why answer is. Whether you believe it or not, you know what the answer is because you've been hearing it since 2016. And perhaps it's even more salient in 2023 than it was in the run-up to the 2016 election, which is really a commentary on how little things have changed or how much they've deteriorated is another way to look at it. And he's got the added benefit in 2023 of, remember, most of what I did, most of which you liked for my 4 years in the White House. And it's what? It's what he said in Bedminster after he was indicted.
It was brilliant.
They're not coming for me. They're coming for you, and I'm standing in your way. I am fighting for your freedoms. I am on your side of the skirmish line. It's me and you against the ruling class. Those people who have dismissed you and who have diminished your quality of life, I am standing against them on your behalf. That's his why. Now we get to the what and the how. DeSantis is telling you all the what and the how. What he did, how he did it, what he's going to do, how he's going to do it, and he hasn't answered the predicate question sufficiently, in my estimation. And this is why he is stagnant. Now, I would also say the environment has changed, and it's gotten a lot more difficult for DeSantis and every other candidate because, as we told you on this show, well before it would happen, the best thing that could happen to Trump is all these investigations wind up in indictments. And when Alvin Bragg was first out of the gate, everything that comes forward from that point is going to be fruit of the poisonous, illegitimate prosecution in Manhattan. It is all going to be viewed by Republican primary voters in particular as hopelessly political, as get Trump at all costs, as we've witnessed over the last 7 years. They'll do it by hook or by crook, as we've witnessed over the last 7 years. And so I'm sticking with that guy. Or I'm even going back to that guy when I thought I wouldn't go back to that guy because he's the only guy, and he's the guy with the most incentive, the most motivation to go after this Beltway ruling class that I want to see somebody take on straight away.
And also,
it's a great value proposition.
Life was better when Trump was president. We had more money in our checking accounts. We had more money in our 401ks. We weren't living paycheck to paycheck. We felt more secure on a national level, too. So people are remembering that, I think, and going back to him. But there's two impeachments, 2 indictments, and there's probably going to be one in Georgia, maybe one in D.C. And every time that's going to happen, every time he's going to get indicted, Trump is going to suck all the oxygen away from every other candidate.
Something else, too, for establishment Republicans who think you're supposed to stay away from cultural issues. This Harvard-Harris poll. 2/3 of voters say they want to live in a state that cuts taxes, encourages charter schools, and does not allow gender surgery on minors, and restricts most abortions after 6 weeks. 2/3 of voters. Voters, not Republican primary voters. Voters. By contrast, 2/3 of voters, including a majority of all parties, say they would not want to live in a state that has increasing taxes, restricts legal gun ownership, allows abortion up to 9 months, allows minors to get gender surgery without parental permission, and encourages undocumented immigrants, and allows felons to vote. So the blue model doesn't seem to be very popular. And as I've characterized it before, right now we have a cold civil war going on. And the manifestation of it is migration patterns. People leaving blue states and going to red states. People leaving California, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and going to Florida, the Carolinas, Tennessee, Texas, Arizona. But we talked about it a little bit last week. You start taking people's kids away from them as they're wont to do in California.
No. Thank you.
That cold civil war could heat up a bit. But on the messaging piece of it, these numbers tell you, even though, frankly, on some of these cultural issues, even though they're majorities or super majorities, it's still stunning that a quarter of the population in this country has been so turned upside down that they support things like gender mutilation and abortion on demand and oppose school choice and so on and so forth. But there's a quarter to a third of the population that is completely lost. So don't listen to them and don't worry about them. Worry about the reachable.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, text line. Got one. Dan and Amy, Republicans have accomplishments. Democrats have cover-ups.
Jim and LaGrange here on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, morning, Dan and Amy. I hope Trump does not get the nomination because I don't believe he can win a general election. I mean, he won the first time because the Democrats were overconfident. And he just, I mean, I'm with Ron DeSantis. I mean, we've developed a culture of losing. I'd support, right now I'm supporting Ron DeSantis, but I could support any other Republican get the nomination. But, you know, I don't really think that Trump is necessarily a conservative, and if he does happen to get reelected, he may not govern as a conservative, as Mike Pence has pointed out.
Yeah, I've heard that argument. I thanks for the call, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
I don't really understand the logic of that argument. I mean, I understand what Pence said, and I understand that Trump is not a philosopher and he is not intellectually consistent, but he does do or attempt to do the things he says he's going to do. And most of that is in the direction of conservatism, common sense conservatism, I would argue. And he wouldn't necessarily govern as a conservative because he'd be a lame duck and so on and so forth. Well, it's not like he's a leftist ideologue. And so, you know, Trump being a relatively venal person, who would he want to take vengeance upon? The men and women of the right or the men and women of the left? Yeah, all the incentives for Trump are to deliver a pounding to the people that have put him through what they've put him through over the last 7 years. And, I mean, I guess there's some establishment, never Trump Republicans that you can put into that camp. But, I mean, where is the critical mass? It's on the left. So it just doesn't make sense from a logical perspective, understanding the kind of guy Trump is, that he would spend his time collaborating with the left to advance their agenda. I just don't see any evidentiary basis to support that claim or logical one. And this is not, I mean, I'm a huge DeSantis fan, as I've said before. I'm a pretty big Tim Scott fan, too. This is just analytical work at this point. Kevin, Austin, Texas.
Dan, Amy, great talking to you on the fantastic holiday of Juneteenth. I think it doesn't really matter who's going to be at the top of the ticket. I mean, as you know, we're over a year out in politics, and it's a lifetime. And it doesn't matter who's at the top of the ticket unless there's a strong get out the vote operation to get people out to the polls. So I just hope that that's something that's being worked on. The horse race, it's great to talk about. There's a lot of money that's being discussed as far as, what consultant is going to make money and that type of thing. But unless there's a get out the vote operation, I think it's pointless.
Well, thanks for the call, Kevin. Yeah, there's a lot of discussion and work underway on GOTV, but it's not pointless who's at the top of the ticket because the GOTV effort takes very different form if Trump is the nominee versus, say, if DeSantis is. Because the GOP effort, if somebody not named Trump is the nominee, will include Trump voters in a way that you will not need to include them if Trump is the nominee. We've seen this problem. We documented this problem. We talked a lot about it in Illinois. The 300,000 Trump voters just in Illinois who voted for Trump in 2016 and didn't come out in 2018 and then didn't come out again in 2022, the off year. 300,000 in Illinois. And it didn't happen. And you have that same dynamic play out nationally or even just in those swing states that will decide the outcome, then you have a real problem. And that's a wrinkle in GOTV that moves around or exists or doesn't exist depending on who the nominee is. So it does matter who the nominee is because whoever the nominee is presents a different matchup. The different candidates present different matchups. They bring different assets and different liabilities. Tom, Blue Island.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. So, Dan, I wanted to ask you, and I'm not looking to intimate that you were ever a proponent of the idea that the Democrats were angling to have Trump as the candidate because they thought he was the most defeatable, especially after these, latest poll numbers you showed. I wanted to see what you thought about that, and then also I'm not going to take a big run at him, Jim. That was just on. I'll argue to the day I die, Trump won the last two elections, and this idea that Trump is unelectable, always a farce and still a farce. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the call, Tom. Well, I am a proponent of the idea that the Democrats absolutely want Trump to be the nominee.
Yeah.
They absolutely do. I have no question in my mind, and I have no question in my mind that informs these investigations and subsequent indictments. That I think they understand the kind of reaction it will get from Republican primary voters, and I think it helps him in the Republican primary, as we're seeing play out, and it hurts him in a general election. That's their theory, and it makes him, to borrow from Jim and LaGrange, unelectable. I think that's their theory of the election in very simple terms. So, but to your point about Jim and LaGrange's comments, he's saying that Trump won in 2016 because the Democrats were overconfident. Well, perhaps history repeats itself. They seem pretty overconfident these days, too, don't they?
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM 560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Raj Shah, host of Unleash Your Wealth.
You know, there are a lot of clients and people coming in from the radio into our office saying, I don't want to lose any money. I need to protect the money I have saved over the last 20 or 30 years, where you have strategies where you can structure an income stream where it has an inflation protection so that as inflation, if it continues to go up, your income will go up.
Unleash Your Wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
So I figured turning 65, I'd try Balance of Nature to see why not, give it a shot. And it's absolutely changed my life. I'm going to cry. I have more energy now than I did when I was in my 40s. It's brought back my life to me, and it's given me the energy that I was so missing, and I wasn't enjoying life because of it, and now I am. So I just wanted to thank Dr. Doug for everything he's done with this, and truly it has changed my life.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order. That's 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Hi, this is Dennis Prager for the good folks at BestHotGrill.com, who make the amazing Solaire infrared gas grills. Declare your independence from the low heat, low powered gas grills, which, in the course of grilling events, wear out every couple of years. Secure your rights to juicy steaks, succulent chicken, and moist fish. Pursue grilling happiness with the purchase of a USA-made, hot, fast Solaire infrared gas grill. Solaire is perfect for today's busy lifestyle, securing its power harvest from the efficient direct heat of the Solaire infrared burner, which reaches 1,000 degrees in just 3 minutes to lock in the juices and flavor and grill food faster. All stainless steel and welded construction, it is self-evident that Solaire could be the last grill you'll ever buy. Making grilling great again with Solaire infrared grills. Learn more about these amazing USA-made grills at besthotgrill.com. Solaire Hot Fast Grills at besthotgrill.com.
Turbulent times call for clear-headed insight. That's hard to come by these days, especially on TV. That's where we come in. The new Salem News Channel, the greatest collection of conservative minds, all in one place. Home to the people you trust. Dennis Prager, Mike Gallagher, Sebastian Gorka, and more. Refreshingly honest, always unfiltered. Streaming free on your TV 24/7. Intelligent analysis for intelligent people. Find what you're looking for at snc.tv. That's snc.tv. AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
More important than even discussions of GOTP programs, something that actually does matter regardless of who the candidate is making the ground fertile for GOP arguments on cultural issues, including, it's Pride Month, you know, the LGBTQ+++++, like how to address the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, who finally got their day at Chavez Ravine on Friday night. We'll have that at 6:36.
And later, awkward moment. Biden and Fetterman on stage. But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
6:32, 62 degrees. More severe weather hitting many parts of the U.S. Storms devastating areas of Texas and Oklahoma. Israeli helicopter gunships have hit targets in the occupied West Bank during a gun battle in the city of Jenin. Violence marked a rare use of Israeli air power in the territory. Violent weekend has left at least 6 dead, dozens injured in shootings across the country, Washington State, St. Louis, Baltimore, and in Pennsylvania, where a state trooper was killed.
Our hearts and prayers are with these brave troopers and their families. Their dedication and service to the Commonwealth and its residents will always be remembered.
Police say they found the suspect a short time later. Parties exchanged gunfire, leaving the officer and suspect dead. The Secretary of State making a high-stakes meeting in China.
The meeting with Secretary Blinken and President Xi Jinping was announced less than 2 hours before it began. It wasn't a guarantee that Xi would meet with Blinken during his 2-day trip to the Chinese capital. A spokesperson said the goal was to maintain open channels of communication with China and to ensure competition does not veer into conflict. I'm Rory O'Neill.
The chair of a Senate subcommittee says he wants more details on the recent merger between the PGA and a Saudi-backed golf tour.
What the structure and governance will be of the entity going forward.
Democrat Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut on Face the Nation. An investigation continues following deadly shooting near Willowbrook. Gunfire erupts early yesterday during an illegal gathering in a strip mall parking lot near Route 83. No one is in custody. An investigation continues after 2 15-year-old boys were shot on Chicago's far south side last night near 128th and South Normal. A University of Illinois graduate is dead. Another hurt after they were attacked while hiking in Germany. Authorities say a man attacked Eva Liu Wednesday near a famous castle. Her friend attempted to rescue Liu but was pushed down the steep slope. The attacker then tried to sexually assault Liu before pushing her down the slope as well. Kathy Chang survived. Liu later died at a nearby hospital. Both victims graduated from the U of I last month. Cubs lost to the Orioles 6-3. Mariners over the White Sox 5-1. Wyndham Clark, your U.S. Open champion. And the news, a service of MyPillow. Big news, brand new MyPillow 2.0, buy one, get one free. Promo code Liberty. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher can't picture 4 more years.
White House officials generally leave President Biden alone over the weekend
to avoid tiring an aging president. This is incredible. There's no way he can make a campaign. It's impossible.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, this is Steve. I'm in Italy, away from my business. But I'm not worried about the office or my absence from it. I'm confident because I've got Turnkey on my side. They've helped me solve several problems for my business, so I can finally relax for a bit while I let the business work. Not only did Turnkey help with my IT problems, their expert team gave me a custom consultation that found additional profit centers in my company. They've helped me focus on a new direction for my business. It's not easy to relax when you own a business, but with our partnership with Turnkey, I feel confident, resolved, and ready to deliver. Now, I'm going to relax, have a Peroni, and depend on the direction Turnkey has helped me embrace. They can help your business too. Visit turnkey.pro to start a conversation today. That's turnkey.pro.
The pros at Turnkey share your values. They know IT and they know small business. They're Chicagoland's small business champions. Visit turnkey.pro to book your appointment today. That's turnkey.pro.
It's a big deal because your finances are a really big deal. Wintrust Community Banks would like to announce our newest and greatest 11-month CD rate with a whopping 5.35% APY. Act now and you can lock in 5.35%. Just go to wintrust.com/locknewrates and start earning more. Annual percentage yield accurate as of May 5th, 2023 and assumes funds remain on deposit until maturity. Minimum daily balance of 1 cent required to obtain APY. $1,000 minimum to open. New money only. Offer may change at any time and without notice. Member FDIC.
You know what the Democrat mafia does to me every day. They get my blood pressure up. You listen to me and you hear my blood pressure go through the roof. I don't need high blood pressure, so I take 120 Life. 120 Life is a Chicago company that developed a juice drink made from natural ingredients. It helps control blood pressure. And if there's anyone who needs blood pressure control, well, arguably it's me. Let me tell you what's in 120 Life. Pomegranates, tart cherries, cranberries, hibiscus, beetroot, magnesium. A recipe I don't have time to make myself. We know these ingredients are good for you, and 120 Life makes it simple to take. You just grab a bottle. Go to 120life.com. That's 120life.com. Order a 2-week trial pack of juice and use the coupon code LIBERTY to save 15%. Unlike the government, there's a money-back guarantee. So when the Dems get your blood boiling, do what I do. Order 120 Life at 120life.com. Use coupon code LIBERTY to save 15%. 120life.com. That's 120life.com. Do it today.
Feel like you're trying to push a boulder uphill wearing skates? If you run or manage a local business today, you're challenged like never before. We get it, and we want to help. We're Salem Surround. We're a full-service marketing agency that'll help you increase your customer base by designing incredibly effective plans to reach your consumers day, night, and everywhere they might be.
If you're a local business and want to see what Salem Surround can do for you, visit SurroundChicago.com. Remember to visit SurroundChicago.com today.
It is 6:39. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Hoffman Estates, accident, Barrington Road and Gulf. Lyons, an accident. First Avenue and Ogden with a diesel fuel spill. Addison, an accident, Addison Road and Westlake. There are delays this morning as well on Metra UP Northwest Line trains from the Ogilvie Transportation Center. They've got a mechanical failure. Delays as you're traveling on the Jane Addams Tollway. An exit ramp is closed due to a bad accident there. It's eastbound Jane Addams to the Tri-State. There's possible hazardous materials situation there as well. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Sun and clouds, high 83. Will be sunny and warm all week long. Right now, no chance of rain. Tomorrow, 83. Wednesday, 87. Thursday, 86. 63 right now at O'Hare. Next news at 7. And Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
If
If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. So that special day at Chavez Ravine was Friday night. The Sisters of Perpetual Depravity, or whatever they're called, were honored before the Dodgers game by said Dodgers organization. Here's how that went.
No one was there. I mean, literally, the place was empty.
Except for a couple of boo birds in the euchre seats. Yeah, I mean, there was a couple of people, but that was the point. And I saw online, well, it's a late arriving crowd and this and that. Well, some Dodgers fans made the point that it's a late arriving crowd, but it's starting to become a crowd that arrives earlier, more of the crowd that arrives earlier because of the game and the nature of how the game's changed and start times and speed of the game and
they
stuff
could have
with
been on time
with pitch counts.
if they supported it.
That's not the point, because I think there were like 49,000 paid attendance, so 3/4 of the stadium. That's not the point. The point is that the Dodgers celebrated these homely men in nun drag Community Hero Award.
The Community Hero Award for what?
And that point is, why do it before the game when nobody's there?
Why not do it during the 7th inning stretch or right before the first pitch is thrown or something?
Wait for everybody to get there to celebrate it in unison, right? It's L.A. after all. You don't want to let a couple of conservative Catholics derail all the revelry. Maybe the Dodgers know something that the left doesn't want you to know. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line.
Well, do you think that even the Dodgers realize that this, progressive nonsense invading every part of our culture was maybe just a little bit too much? I mean, they had thousands of protesters outside the park. The Catholic Church, they had commercials running in the LA TV market asking people to boycott this because of the sin and debauchery and what they
Catholic
do.
Vote.
Catholic Vote, excuse me.
Did.
Catholic Vote.
CatholicVote.org, Brian Birch's organization, not the church.
No, but it was effective, and people were there, and they were upset.
Yeah, my concern is that they're not sisters, and they're ridiculing the good sisters in the Catholic Church.
We're here to pray for them as well, because we don't know why they feel that they need to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, a Community Hero Award. They're not out there saving lives.
Well, maybe the
not
Dodgers
medics or police officers.
Maybe the Dodgers are watching the impact that is being felt on Anheuser-Busch and Target from going too far. And they got caught. They tried to backtrack. Then they were getting hammered from the left, which they really can't abide.
No.
And so they went through with it, but they tried to go through with it as quietly and as quickly as possible so as to not avoid the sorts of impacts that are being felt over there at Bud Light and Target Central.
They weren't even on the mound they were right outside the dugout. And it was so fast-paced. But one sister loved it. She loved getting this Community Hero Award. This is a man, not a woman, dressed up as a nun.
That filled me not only with joy and gladness, but a sense of safeness and security, and a sense that who I am, as ridiculous as this may be, is welcome on the face of the earth.
As ridiculous as this may be, and she's pointing to herself in this habit with these extended eyelashes that, are contacting Mars. They're so high up.
Yeah. This isn't, I mentioned that Harvard's Harris poll when we were talking about the head-to-head, and I mentioned the kind of state that the majority of Americans want to live in, and it's not a kind of state that gives these transvestite goons community hero awards. That's for sure.
Community hero.
77% of voters oppose a law in their state that would allow minors to get gender-changing surgery and puberty blockers without parental permission, which is exactly where California is going. And that's 2/3 of Democrats. Something else that's happening, though, it's even more important. I mean, it's much more important, frankly, than a baseball team honoring those deviants. And that is this federal judge in Massachusetts.
What's going on there?
Remember the young man we brought you last month? His name is, he's a 12-year-old at Massachusetts. Where's my sheet? What's his name? Liam Morrison. Sorry. Knew he was an Irish guy. Liam Morrison. He wore a T-shirt to school that read, "There are only two genders."
Oh, that's right.
And he addressed the school board. Liam Morrison, 12-year-old, addressed the Massachusetts School Board, Middlesboro Public School District, to be specific, saying this about his expression.
In the 7th, 10th grade at Nichols Middle School, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. I never thought that the shirt I wore to school on March 21st would lead me to speak with you today. On that Tuesday morning, I was taken out of gym class to sit down with two adults for what turned out to be a very uncomfortable talk. I was told that people were complaining about the words on my shirt, that my shirt was making some students feel unsafe. Yes, words on a shirt made people feel unsafe. They told me that I wasn't in trouble, but it sure felt like I was. I was told that I would need to remove my shirt before I could return to class. When I nicely told them that I didn't want to do that, they called my father. Thankfully, my dad supported my decisions and came to pick me up. What did my shirt say? 5 simple words. There are only two genders. Nothing harmful, nothing threatening, just a statement I believe to be a fact. I have been told that my shirt was targeting a protected class. Who is this protected class? Are their feelings more important than my rights? I don't complain when I see pride flags and diversity posters hung throughout the school. Do you know why? Because others have a right to their beliefs just as I do. Not one person, staff, or student told me that they were bothered by what I was wearing. Actually, just the opposite. Several kids told me that they supported my actions and that they wanted one too. I was told that the shirt was a disruption to learning. No one got up and stormed out of class. No one burst into tears. I'm sure I would have noticed if they had. I experience disruptions to my learning every day. Kids acting out in class are a disruption, yet nothing is done. Why do the rules apply to one yet not another? I feel like these adults were telling me that it wasn't okay for me to have an opposing view. Their arguments were weak, in my opinion. I didn't go to school that day to hurt feelings or cause trouble. I have learned a lot from this experience. I learned that a lot of other students share my view. I learned that adults don't always do the right thing or make the right decisions. I know that I have a right to wear a shirt with those 5 words. Even at 12 years old, I have my own political opinions, and I have a right to express those opinions. Even at school, this right is called the First Amendment to the Constitution. My hope in being here tonight is to bring the school committee's attention to this issue. I hope that you will speak up for the rest of us so we can express ourselves without being pulled out of class. Next time, it may not only be me. There might be more students that decide to speak out. Thank you for your time and good night.
Thank you.
That's a 12-year-old. Pretty impressive. There's a case law on this, by the way. Why is that case law important? Well, because on Friday, a federal judge in Massachusetts ruled that the shirt that young Liam wore, "There are only two genders," could be construed as bullying of a protected class and is not protected speech.
Wow.
Because he and his father filed suit against Middlesboro Public School for First and 14th Amendment rights violations. The judge, Indira Telwani, saying the boy and his father had not established the likelihood of success on the merits where he is unable to counter the school district showing that enforcement of the dress code was undertaken to protect the invasion of the rights of other students to a safe and secure educational environment. There's a 1969 case, a famous Supreme Court ruling, 7-2, to show you how far our culture has fallen in the last 50 years, called Tinker v. Des Moines. 7-2, the Supreme Court ruled that students at a Des Moines public school could wear armbands protesting the Vietnam War. They established in that case what is known as the substantial disruption test. And it's been applied to similar cases of freedom of expression questions in public schools subsequently. The substantial disruption, generally speaking, is if the nature of the expression, whether symbolic or written, one of the exceptions would be creates a safety issue. But to say that protesting the Vietnam War with the black armband 50 years ago was protected speech, that was the holding in the Tinker case. And 50 years later, wearing a shirt that said there are only two genders, I mean, Tinker is directly on point here. And some of the more recent cases deal with the distribution of newspapers, deal with a particularly sexualized speech in a student assembly. They're less on point. This is the expansion of safety, what constitutes a safe environment or legitimate action to promote public safety that infringes upon our God-given constitutional rights. Public safety is being used as synonymous with protecting feelings, and that's not the same thing.
Nope.
And so this case that will get very little attention is more important than obsessing about the handful of goofy transvestites at Chavez Ravine on Friday night. Because this is about the kind of society in which we live, which your kids grow up, the environment in the schools they attend. And I hope that the Morrisons appeal this federal judge's holding in the case because we're going to need more clarification from the Supreme Court, and ideally we should get it from the Supreme Court as is currently constituted on the Tinker precedent and subsequent cases in that vein. There are only two genders. That promotes an unsafe learning environment. Well, what does that say in terms of cultural norms about anybody who believes that, of who wears that shirt, whatever, at a company outing, or just in general in public? Out of an abundance of caution, we're going to make you take that shirt off. Out of an abundance of caution, we're going to silence you. Dawn in Crystal Lake, you're in Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yes, I am concerned, Dan, that you are promoting Catholicism as the established religion of this country that a left is trying to overthrow. In my opinion, as a descendant of founding stock of the United States, you are trying to overthrow the type of society that my ancestors tried to establish here. I know you see it differently, but that is how I perceive it.
Well, thank you.
So
Thank you for feeling your feelings. Yeah, there's no attempting to overthrow the founding of this country. There's no desire. I have no desire to establish a Catholic theocracy or whatever crazed conspiracy is kicking around between your ears, Dawn and Crystal Lake. It's nonsense. We've rallied on this show to the defense of people of all faiths. We rallied to the support of the Muslim American community in Hamtramck, Michigan yesterday. Not yesterday, last week, when they voted to eliminate the pride flags adorning public buildings. We're not getting into the flag business, the village council there decided, just for example.
Just the American flag and the POW.
The Jewish community, particularly those who are actually adherents to Judaism, evangelical Christians. How critical have I been of Catholic schools, of the cardinal, of those social justice / liberation theology Catholics? What you're saying is just utter nonsense. So I don't know what is so frightening to you about defending the church, at least the church as it advances the catechism. And I'm just talking about, from my personal perspective, but this is not a public policy issue. It's a cultural issue. And the Catholic Church and how Catholics are being treated, as in the case of these grotesque sisters in L.A., it's just an example. It's an example that's part of the larger tapestry of the culture. So you're welcome to your nonsense, but it's just that and nothing more. Steve in Downers Grove.
Dan, thank you for taking my call. I'm particularly pissed off at this group out in Chavez Ravine. This is a hate group. They should be all arrested. It is offensive to all religions. I'm far from Roman Catholic, believe me. I am a Christian, but I worked for the Religious Sisters of Mercy, which is now Trinity Healthcare, was hired by an RSM, and it is offensive to the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of religious women. Let's include Mother Teresa in that, and I hope these clowns are not just banished, but arrested and sent to prison for the rest of their life.
Well, thanks for the call, Steve. I mean, they committed no crime.
Freedom of expression.
They committed no crime. We want this to go in both directions in terms of the freedom of expression. These are cultural fights, not legal fights, for the most part. It's where the left weaponizes the law to infringe on others' rights, and we don't want to respond in kind. I want to say, though you can dress up like a nun all you want, dude. You can believe whatever you want to believe. You can say whatever it is you want to say, but just understand that we have the same right to react.
And, the Dodgers did lose to the Giants 7-5 in extra innings. And they pointed out that they have the Christian Family Faith event on July 30th. Trying to cover their tracks or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
It's what Chicago is talking about. It's Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy on AM 560. The Answer.
When your home or business has an insurance claim, the next step is very important. The claim process with insurance can be tedious, hard to understand, and difficult to navigate. You need someone working for you. You need a licensed claim adjuster. Why? The insurance company will send out their inspectors that work for them, get paid by them, and represent them, not you.
This is Dan Lights from Crosscom. We inspect your property, file your claim, negotiate the damages, and maximize your settlement with your insurance company. If we complete the repairs approved by your insurance company, our service is free. Crosscom Public Adjusters has turned denied claims into approved claims. We've also increased insurance claims anywhere from 23 to 1,000%. We are licensed by the Department of Insurance and work in Illinois, Northwest Indiana, and Southern Wisconsin. Crosscom Public Adjusters, 630-871-5500. Online at crosscominc.com. That's crosscominc.com. Crosscom, building trust for over 20 years.
News, opinion, insight. This is AM 560, The Answer. WIND Chicago. Streaming at 560theanswer.com. On the AM 560 mobile app. Tune in, iHeart, and on Odyssey.
A rare meeting in China. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Antony Blinken, the first Secretary of State to go to China in 5 years, met with President Xi Jinping.
We both agree on the need to stabilize our relationship.
There has been rising tension over Taiwan and recent U.S. support for the island China claims to own.
We continue to expect the peaceful resolution of cross-strait differences.
There has also been the Chinese spy balloon and recent military encounters. During Blinken's visit, China said the U.S. must choose between cooperation and conflict. Republican Congressman Mike Gallagher just told Fox.
We have to push back on this message from the Chinese Communist Party that they're somehow anything less than cooperation with the world order they desire is choosing conflict. They are risking conflict.
After China, Secretary of State Antony Blinken will go to the U.K. for a conference on helping Ukraine fend off Russia's invasion. A Russian opposition leader who was poisoned and nearly killed 2 years ago is on trial again today in Russia.
Alexei Navalny is already serving a 9-year sentence for fraud, contempt of court and violating parole, but supporters say his only crime is opposing Vladimir Putin. These charges include creating an extremist network and financing extremist activity. The trial is taking place in the penal colony where the 47-year-old is being held.
That's Fox's Jonathan Savage. It's Juneteenth, a federal holiday that'll mean no mail service. Most banks are closed, same with schools and areas not yet done for the year. It commemorates the end of slavery in 1865. There was a shooting at a Juneteenth celebration in Willowbrook, Illinois, a Chicago suburb. One person was killed, 22 wounded. Police still looking for the suspects. Another person was killed in another early Sunday shooting in St. Louis, 9 injured there.
I want to thank the quick response of these officers to the scene, the EMS workers that applied first aid in the hospitals and how to treat these individuals for a horrific event that shouldn't be happening.
Police Chief Robert Ray has 17-year-olds in custody. America's list.
62 degrees at 7:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. An investigation continues following a deadly shooting near Willowbrook. Authorities say gunfire erupted yesterday during an illegal gathering in a strip mall parking lot near Route 83 and Honeysuckle Rose Lane.
I said they celebrating the 4th of July early, but there was gunshot.
One person was killed, 22 more were wounded.
We went down the street to see what was going on, and we just saw, a bunch of people running.
DuPage County sheriffs say no one is in custody. 2 are dead, 3 others wounded following a shooting at a park on Chicago's far south side. The gathering happened last night in the 9900 block of South Princeton Avenue in the Roseland community. In Chicago, unofficially, there were 39 wounded by gunfire. 9 were killed. Authorities continue investigating a deadly motorcycle crash in Geneva where a Harley-Davidson collided with a Chevy Saturday. It happened on Route 38. The man riding the motorcycle died. But right now, speed or alcohol do not appear to be factors. Divers in northwest Indiana pulled a drowning victim out of a suburban lake. Hobart Fire said officers responded to Robinson Lake just before 1 p.m. Assistant Chief John Reitz.
The victim was recovered at around 2:49 p.m. by the divers. Indiana DNR is handling this investigation.
Witnesses told officers a female went under the water. Officers went into the lake but were unable to find her until Hobart Fire dive team members arrived. Cubs blew a 1-run lead in their 6-3 loss to Baltimore. White Sox got 16 strikeouts from Lance Lynn but still lost to the Mariners 5-1 in Seattle. Road to the College World Series in baseball heating up. TCU eliminates 7-seeded Virginia. 2nd seed Florida held off Oral Roberts, so now TCU and Oral Roberts will face off in an elimination game. The news, a service of Dan and Amy 24/7. Listen now, Dan and Amy 247.com. And a check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
Charlie Kirk goes on the attack.
I'm exhausted talking about the Biden thing. It doesn't interest me, but I have to get over that. With Jim Jordan and Speaker McCarthy, we have to now say, okay, you're going to run this crook for the White House in 2024. Equal and opposite reaction, folks. This guy is the El Chapo of political corruption. He is the kingpin.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Afternoons at 1, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 560. The Answer. It's almost time for the annual AM 560 golf outing presented by Signature Bank. And this year, AM 560 is proud to partner with the Tunnel to Towers Foundation to help them support America's first responders and military heroes, including homeless veterans, and to help America never forget 9/11. This year, our golf outing is happening on Thursday, June 22nd at McRae Memorial Golf Club in Barrington. When you purchase a foursome to join us, you'll enjoy a full day of golf, which includes lunch and either breakfast or dinner. Business owners, when you purchase a foursome, you'll receive 25 one-minute commercials to air on AM 560 to promote your business and a free digital marketing analysis. And this year, we have twosomes available in addition to foursomes. Reserve your spot today at 560theanswer.com/golf. That's 560theanswer.com/golf. Sponsored in part by Joe Cotton Ford and Carroll Stream, Crosscom Public Adjusters, Waukegan Roofing, and by KWCC Construction.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Born on America's darkest day of 9/11, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has been supporting the heroes who risk life and limb in the line of duty ever since. Jersey City Police Detective Joseph Seals was shot and killed in the line of duty in 2019, days before Christmas. He left behind his wife and 5 children. Tunnel to Towers immediately paid off their mortgage thanks to your generosity. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. That's T2T.org.
It's summertime, and you want to keep the shop, warehouse, and other doors open for ventilation. Air circulation improves the well-being of your employees and customers, but open doors can let in the uninvited, like strangers, birds, rodents, and bugs. Industrial Door Company of Chicago, Inc. can help solve the problem with a full line of commercial screen door products designed with these specific problems in mind. Call Industrial Door Company of Chicago, Inc. now. Also, regular scheduled maintenance is the key, and Industrial Door Company of Chicago, Inc. has multiple levels of maintenance programs for your company's needs and budget. They'll ensure your doors, grills, gates, and dock equipment are working to specification to increase the useful life of your doors. Visit their website to see a range of products and services at industrialdoor.com. Call anytime, 847-258-5620. Their team will be there to assist in designing a solution that works best for you. Since 1982, the Industrial Door Company of Chicago, Inc. takes care of your doors so you can take care of business.
7:08. Let's get an update on the roads. We do that, of course, in our Team Hochberg Traffic Center, a service of the daily podcast of Chicago's Morning Answer and the Sean Thompson Show. Subscribe free, 560theanswer.com/podcast. Inbound Kennedy right now at 28 minutes. O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Kennedy outbound 30 minutes to the big airport. Stevenson at 26 from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. And Jane Addams has an exit ramp entirely shut down due to a bad accident. A semi-trailer came unhitched, and there's a possible hazmat cleanup there, prompting the entire shutdown of the exit ramp from the Jane Addams I-90 eastbound to the Tri-State southbound. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Today, times of sunny clouds, drought conditions worsening today, high 83. It'll be clear tonight, low 62. Sunny day tomorrow, the high 83. And then mostly sunny, warmer day on Wednesday, the high Wednesday afternoon, 87. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
62 at O'Hare, 64 at Midway. And your next news update is at 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. The identitarian left's messiah / mascot, former President Barack Obama, on talking to professional liar David Axelrod of the University of Chicago Institute for Political Skullduggery. Obama saying the technology's here now, so most immediately we're going to have all the problems we had with misinformation before, but this next election cycle will be worse. Next election cycle will be worse. At some point, we got to do something. What do we need to do? The need for us, the general public, pronounced Obama, is to be more discriminating consumers of news and information. The need for us to, over time, develop technologies to create watermarks or digital fingerprints so we know what is true and what is not true. There's a whole bunch of work that's going on to be done there, but in the short term, it's really going to be up to the American people to kind of say. What a dizzying intellect he is. Wow.
I just went to my happy place, Dan.
Digital fingerprints, so we know what's true and not true. And who confers the indicia of authenticity, Mr. President? For more on this and other geopolitical, national security matters, please be joined by Dakota Wood. He served America for 2 decades in the Marine Corps. He's Senior Research Fellow for Defense Programs at the Heritage Foundation. Dakota, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Great to be here. Hey, how do you feel about these things? Sometimes you're not really clear about,
He's shy.
Yeah.
He's just coming out of his shell.
Well, I mean, we
got to work on him.
I just asked a leading question, but a question nonetheless. The digital fingerprints, will that help us root out misinformation and disinformation? Like, I don't know, like 51 former Intel community members declaring that Hunter Biden's laptop had all the earmarks of a Russian disinformation campaign, that sort of thing, and we need digital fingerprints for.
Right now, it's ridiculous. All it really does is it further improves the government's ability to conduct surveillance, and track down dissenting voices. If you can link somebody to this digital fingerprint, some kind of certification, then you would know exactly who to silence on social media. How many stories have we heard now about whether it was Twitter or other platforms where the Department of Justice, FBI, basically pressured them or convinced them to suppress certain voices that perhaps weren't in favor of the COVID vaccine or other aspects. So I think, anything coming out of Barack Obama really needs to be questioned seriously. And I think in terms of the veracity or the reliability of information, people can sense that out. Lies fall apart over time. Truth is usually seen in everyday realities and in redundancy, and people can figure that stuff out. We don't need some kind of government check mark next to your postings on Facebook.
Speaking of misinformation, I saw that Tony Blinken, that dynamo, who's our Secretary of State, is hanging out with President Xi, working on our chilled relationship, I have no doubt. But more importantly than Blinken being there, Bill Gates was there on Thursday and announced a $50 million collaboration with a Tsinghua University, which is where President Xi matriculated, don't you know, to study drug development, pharmaceutical drug development, and viruses. That should go well.
Yeah, not so good that time around, right? We do want research in these areas, either from a military standpoint. How might an opponent weaponize a virus or a pathogen, and you want to develop a counter to that? In human health, we would like to know how various diseases mature, how they evolve over time, so we can get better treatments on that. But you got to make choices about who you're going to give your money too. So if you have somebody like Bill Gates, billions and billions of dollars, giving money, even if it was well intended for biomedical research, to a regime controlled by the Chinese Communist Party that has done everything it can to steal intellectual property, to corner the U.S. out of various markets. They don't have our long-term interests. Why would you want to do that?
Well, and also,
Why would you want to do that?
Xi's alma mater there, Tsinghua University, reportedly conducts research for the Chinese Communist Party's military. I mean, so, all this talk, including on Mike Gallagher's committee, we got to get him back on the show. Mike Gallagher from Wisconsin, who chairs the Chinese Communist Party committee in the House. There's talk about Sequoia Capital making investments in companies that are essentially Chinese Communist Party controlled and that are involved with Chinese military and so forth. And should we allow a private equity behemoth like Sequoia Capital be making those investments in our enemy? What about Bill Gates? I mean, this guy, every time this guy turns up, bad stuff happens. And I'm not just talking about with respect to young girls. This is so it's Bill Gates, but it's also the example of Bill Gates. What about some interventions here? Would that be appropriate?
Well, it's when somebody gets to that level of prominence and money that they kind of rise above the reality that you and I live. They're not subject to normal laws. They get entree to power centers like in Beijing and Moscow, and they start to think that they can just muse philosophically about some greater good for humanity without having to dirty themselves with human trafficking, drug trafficking, bioengineering of pathogens, these sorts of things. They just become, I think, detached from reality. As smart as they are, they lose common sense. So I do think that in a free market, free trade environment, capitalism rules. You find the best thing at the lowest price to the consumer, and competition is in that marketplace. But if other countries aren't playing fairly, and you're giving your money to your opponent that is going to use that for military purposes and surveillance state, internal and external to China, those sorts of things, you're not morally and ethically on the same team. You've decided that you're a globalist and you're not an American. And I think we see these trends in several of the Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, these very, very moneyed individuals. And you also have, sports and entertainment stars to get into that same mindset as well. So, the world is not a level playing field. You do need to pick a team. The United States has done more things for more people globally than any other country in the history of the world. And why you would want to seek monetary or business relationships with a repressive regime like the Chinese Communist Party, I just don't understand that.
All right. Speaking of America's enemies, the Biden administration is trying to resuscitate the Iran nuclear deal. The deal being reported financial relief for Iran vis-a-vis sanctions waivers, plus the promise of no new sanctions, while requesting only that Iran not enrich uranium beyond the 60% that they've already enriched, which would provide for several nuclear weapons if they so desired.
Mm-hmm. Right, and the Obamaites and the Bidenites would talk about how the Obama era agreement with Iran was all blown apart by Donald Trump, and you saw this explosion in enrichment in Iran. And what they aren't telling the American public in that criticism is that even during the Obama nuclear deal with Iran, the Iranians were burrowing deep into the ground. They had secret laboratories that were continuing to improve their capabilities and enrich their uranium, setting the foundation to be able to do that. What Trump did was revealed all of that. You can't just jump from 10% enrichment to 60% on the flip of a switch. That all of that prep work was done during the period of that nuclear deal, and it did nothing with their ballistic missile capabilities in terms of restricting that, the academic and intellectual developments, that lead to a nuclear weapon as well. So again, this Biden team wants to say that they're doing something that Trump wasn't able to do. It's a continuation of the Obama regime. Israel is scared witless out of this, that they're going to have to deal with a nuclear-armed Iran, and they will act in their own interests. So if we want to avoid, some kind of an atomic war in the Middle East, the Biden team cannot continue to try to resurrect this nuclear deal. It's bad news for everybody.
He is Dakota Wood, served America for 2 decades in the Marine Corps, Senior Research Fellow for Defense Programs at the Heritage Foundation now. Dakota, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
God bless. Take care.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
If you have an IRA or 401k, please listen closely. My name is Jason Hansen. I'm a former CIA officer and New York Times bestselling author. Throughout my career, let's just say I've been in some hairy situations. And I believe right now the biggest threat facing Americans is they need to protect their wealth, which is exactly what I'm doing for my wife and 6 kids. And I believe the ultimate safe haven is physical gold and silver. You can protect your hard-earned retirement assets with a tax-free loophole that allows you to convert your retirement into physical gold and silver. The folks I use are Advantage Gold, and believe me, I've investigated the heck out of all types of people. Advantage Gold is the nation's highest rated gold company. They have the best process, pricing, and service. If you want to get your free gold and silver investment kit, please contact Advantage Gold right now, and you'll see how easy it is to protect yourself with precious metals. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000. 800-900-8000.
Advantage Gold is not an investment advisor or a tax advisor. Consult with your financial advisor before investing.
Call 800-900-8000.
Guys, a lot of people talking about testosterone, but do your homework and go to a provider you can trust. I've been recommending my friends at Low T Center for 8 years now. That's where I get my levels checked. Low T Center exclusively specializes in men's wellness. They check all your levels, not just your testosterone, and determine the cause of any symptoms you're having and whether you're a candidate for low T or something else like low thyroid or sleep apnea. Typically, their annual health assessment is completely covered by health insurance, and they check everything, including PSA, your prostate levels, as well as thyroid, liver and kidney function, cholesterol, glucose levels, and more. Low T Center has affordable and convenient options for treatment, including monitored self-inject treatment that ships directly to you each month, so there's no need to come to the center each week. Make your health a priority and schedule your annual health assessment at Low T Center today. It's covered by most health insurance or less than $100 cash pay. Visit lowtcenter.com to book your appointment online. That's lowtcenter.com. Tell them Dan Prof sent you when you do. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
When you're serious about your concealed carry training and education and are ready to learn from an active police officer with a teaching degree, check out Illinois Concealed Carry Training in Midlothian. You'll learn safe, responsible firearm use, home defense planning, conflict avoidance, situational awareness, and how to remain physically, morally, and financially safe in the event you must use your firearm in self-defense or the defense of another. Weekday and weekend classes available.
I'm Sergeant Gary Carr, police firearms trainer and the owner of Illinois Concealed Carry Training. We'll arm you with what really counts: knowledge and training. All concealed carry curriculums are not created equal. This may be the single most important decision you'll ever make for yourself and your loved ones. Choose between 3 and 16-hour classes that are available both weekdays and weekends. We are your one-stop for concealed carry classes, fingerprints, and legal defense plans.
Register for a class today and get 10% off class fees with promo code AM560. Visit IllinoisConcealedCarry.com. That's IllinoisConcealedCarry.com.
All right, now's the time when structural problems can start in your home. If you're noticing new cracks in your walls or brickwork, sinking ground or concrete, sagging floors, gaps under baseboards, sticking doors, windows, well, guess what? These are all symptoms of structural foundation problems, and it's time to call Permaseal Basement Systems. All too often, homeowners ignore these signs and then experience even bigger problems later on, which in turn costs way more to fix. Call Permaseal today, 800-421-SEAL, 800-421-7325. You can rely on an honest, accurate, and free evaluation from Permaseal's trained experts. For over 41 years, Permaseal has been Chicagoland's and Northwest Indiana's most trusted contractor. For a free, thorough inspection, call Permaseal 800-421-SEAL or visit permaseal.net.
Are you growing your manufacturing team this year and need new employees? Turn to Monarch Technical Services. They've been leading the Chicago staffing industry for manufacturing and engineering since 1987. You'll appreciate their vetting process. They meet every candidate in person to interview and test for specific skills. Monarch assesses experience by using blueprint, shop math, part measurement, and CNC program exams. Their quality skills assessor was once a plant manager who worked on manufacturing equipment, so he recognizes who has the skills to fit each job requirement. Monarch Technical now offers a 30-day free trial with any day one direct hire. This allows you to make sure direct hire employees are fitting in before fees are paid. And they have a unique payment option which allows the finder's fee to be paid in 6 equal monthly payments. So if you're growing your manufacturing team this year and searching for exceptional talent, contact Monarch Technical Services at 847-342-1221. That's 847-342-1221, or online at monarchtechnical.com. That's monarchtechnical.com.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
So I figured turning 65, I'd try Balance of Nature to see why not, give it a shot. And it's absolutely changed my life. I'm going to cry. I have more energy now than I did when I was in my 40s. It's brought back my life to me, and it's given me the energy that I was so missing, and I wasn't enjoying life because of it, and now I am. So I just wanted to thank Dr. Doug for everything he's done with this, and truly it has changed my life.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order. That's 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. I know you've been wondering, what's on the mind of John Fetterman these days? Well, you know what's always on his mind.
What?
I like them French fried potatoes.
French fried taters. He likes to eat them
boy.
with ketchup. But also on his mind, so he was told, was the collapse of that bridge, the portion of the I-95 bridge in Philadelphia that collapsed after a car crash and a fire.
Yeah. It's a big deal, obviously. It's the biggest news coming out of Philadelphia or Pennsylvania in a long time.
Mm-hmm. And so he enlisted his pal, the big guy, to come to Pennsylvania to address this I-95 deal because the two of them are going to work together. And when John Fetterman and Joe Biden get together, there's nothing they can't accomplish.
And now I'm standing next to the president again, next to a collapsed bridge here. And he is here to commit to work with the governor and the delegation to make sure that we get this fixed quick, fast as well, too. This is a president that is committed to infrastructure. Yeah, and then on top of that, the dual kind of law of the inflation bill that is going to make sure that there's going to be bridges all across like this, all across America getting rebuilt.
I mean, it's like watching child abuse. He's wearing, of course, his sweatshirt, his hoodie, and his
regular guy
sneakers and his workout shorts while he's next to the president of the United States.
Hey, he's not one of those soulless, one-dimensional suit-wearing Pauls. He's a regular dude with a pullover, with a hoodie on, who speaks the people's language about inflation and infrastructure. Fetterman didn't stop there. He's so committed to this matter of repairing the bridge on I-95.
Yeah, the day before he was at a
he
committee
commented at in a Senate committee hearing as well, enlisting his colleagues. When John Fetterman, Joe Biden, and Senate Democrats get together, there's nothing they can't accomplish. Maybe even fixing a bridge.
No, I would just really like to, the 95.
Oh, this is painful.
Obviously that you're pretty much preoccupied with 95, and I know I certainly am too. And we know it's a major artery, not just for Pennsylvania, but for the East Coast. And a lot of Pennsylvanians are worried that the delays in repairs bring to its standstill deal.
Why don't you apply for a job as Fetterman's translator, since you're so good at deciphering what he's saying?
Okay. And then Biden, in an attempt to try and take pressure off that debacle that happened on Saturday when Fetterman couldn't say infrastructure. In other words, Biden tried to make a joke.
I might add, if I didn't, I'd be sleeping alone. I better explain that. Some don't know what I'm talking about. My wife's a Philly girl. All right, where are we going?
Where am I going?
Go over and get the briefing.
What am I doing? I mean, it was embarrassing. And he's in charge of our country, and the other senator from Pennsylvania cannot complete a sentence.
I was a little, it's interesting. I wonder if Kamala Harris took any offense that both of them were wearing the Biden-Fetterman 2024 It's a No-Brainer T-shirt when they were on the podium together.
Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Ken Cuccinelli, former Virginia Attorney General, now running a Ron DeSantis affiliated super PAC. We'll discuss POTUS politics. Ken Cuccinelli, 737.
But now let's head into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
65 degrees, 7:30 on AM 560, The Answer. Severe weather struck parts of the U.S. over the weekend. Storms, devastating storms, Texas, Oklahoma, and the lower Mississippi Valley. Israeli gunships have hit targets in the occupied West Bank. It's all part of a gun battle in the city of Jenin between Israeli troops and militants. The fighting killed 4 Palestinians. The violence marked a rare use of Israeli air power in the region. The FBI and multiple state authorities this morning are investigating after dozens of letters containing a suspicious white powder were sent to Kansas state officials late last week. ABC News reporting just moments ago that so far the substances tested are not considered explosive or a biohazard. The chair of the House Intelligence Committee says China is feeling the heat from the U.S. as Antony Blinken meets with top Chinese officials today.
In addition to the spy balloon, the allegations of spying facilities in Cuba, the police stations that have been identified by the administration in the United States, they're spying on Chinese and American citizens.
CNN State of the Union hosting Republican Congressman Mike Turner. The week is off to a successful start for SpaceX.
Ignition and liftoff. Go Falcon, go PSN.
They launched a rocket yesterday for the PSN Santria mission from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Now the Falcon 9 rocket was carrying a communications satellite for Indonesia. Violent weekend across the country has left 6 dead, dozens injured in Washington State, St. Louis, Baltimore, Pennsylvania, where a state trooper was killed, and a deadly shooting near Willowbrook, where gunfire erupted early yesterday during an illegal gathering in a strip mall parking lot near Route 83 and Honeysuckle Rose Lane. Again, 1 was killed. No one is in custody. In Chicago, 2 are dead, 3 others wounded following a shooting at a park on the far south side in the Roseland community. Divers in northwest Indiana pulled a drowning victim out of a suburban lake Sunday. Hobart Fire reports that a female went under the water. Dive team members and other rescuers pulled out the victim around 3 p.m. Cubs blow a 1-run lead in their 6-3 loss to the Orioles at Wrigley Field, while the White Sox got 16 strikeouts from Lance Lynn and still lost to the Mariners 5-1. U.S. Open Golf, Wyndham Clark, your winner at the LACC, his first major championship. The news, a service of MyPillow. Big news. Brand new MyPillow 2.0. Buy one, get one free. MyPillow 2.0, machine washable, dryable. Visit MyPillow.com. Use promo code LIBERTY. And a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Brandon Tatum explains what will win in 2024.
If you were just running for the Republican ticket, then just keep being far-right extreme Republican, and you're going to win. But if you think you're going to get people in the middle, you're going to win an election, you have to be more than the Republicans love you, but the Democrats hate you more. You cannot win with that theology.
The Officer Tatum Show. Weeknights at 7, right before Jay Sekulow at 9 on AM 560. The Answer.
If you're selling your home or purchasing a new home, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Team Hochberg is offering every listener the Perks at Work benefit, which can save you thousands of dollars on your next real estate transaction. Here's how it works. When a Team Hochberg affiliated realtor sells your home, they'll reduce their fee up to 1%. When a Team Hochberg affiliated realtor helps you purchase a home, you will receive up to 1% of their commission in the form of a closing cost credit. Team Hochberg will credit all of your loan origination fees, and our affiliated attorney will reduce his fee. Last year, a couple who was buying and selling a home saved close to $9,000 with the Team Hochberg Perks at Work program. To learn how you can save thousands of dollars on your next real estate transaction, please give me a call now at 855-56-DAVID or visit our website, 56david.com. That number again is 855-563-2843 or visit our website, 56david.com. Lower.com, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 1124061.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
I'm a physical therapist in private practice, but I will tell you, I've got my brother who's a detective, and he also trains canine. He's hooked on it now. We go to the gym all the time. We're very active. Once you get started, you are going to notice a tremendous difference in your energy level, your diet. You're going to want to eat better. It's incredible, and I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order. That's 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Now there's a simple, easy, and effective way to clean your nose and protect your health. It's called Navage. Navage, available at Navage.com.
7:37, and let's get an update on the roads in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center. The Kennedy, manageable right now, 30 minutes in O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Kennedy outbound, 30 minutes back out to the big airport. Ike on the inbound side, no problem at all, 30 minutes, 390 into the old post office. Jane Addams, really the only trouble spot, and it's a big one. All traffic diverted off onto I-190 on the Jane Addams eastbound ramp to the Tri-State southbound with a rollover semi and a possible hazardous materials cleanup. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast, sun and clouds, high 83 and no rain in the forecast for the next 5 days. 65 at O'Hare. Next news coming up at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. America First with Sebastian Gorka, today at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy, as people continue discussing the primary elections, most notably on the Republican side between Trump and DeSantis and other aspirants. There's always this hint of fatalism that creeps in. You've heard it from callers on to this show as well, which is, it doesn't matter because they're going to cheat. Republicans will never win another election until or unless these things happen. And I don't believe that, but I recognize that a lot of people are frustrated, exasperated, skeptical that the Republican Party will do a better job in the states and communities that matter in terms of swinging the election one way or the other, more likely than not, than they did 2 years ago or 4 years ago. One person who's part of the effort to improve confidence in the administration of elections and is Ken Cuccinelli. He's a former Attorney General of the state of Virginia, national chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative, and also the operator of a super PAC affiliated with the Ron DeSantis campaign, with Ron DeSantis' candidacy, supporting Ron DeSantis' candidacy. He joins us now. Ken Cuccinelli, thanks for being with us again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good morning. Good to be with you.
Well, let's talk about macro before we get to micro. So the macro is the Election Transparency Initiative, this inspiring confidence that elections will be freely and fairly administered. And what's your general assessment, particularly as it relates to places where we've seen problems time and again, like in Maricopa County, Arizona, for example?
Yeah, so I think you zero in on it well. The concern centers on some locations. I will say we are better off than we were in 2020, and I think by a fair margin. That doesn't mean in every state. We're worse off in Michigan, but we're better off in a lot of swing states, including Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona. Real progress of varying degrees has been made in those states. I don't think we're going to see more progress in Arizona with the current governor, but that doesn't stop Republicans from zeroing in on Maricopa County and trying to fix, frankly, what is seems like a rolling and continual set of screw-ups. That's the best, most generous way I can put it.
Well, what are some examples of the improvements that have been made that should inspire more confidence?
Sure. Great question. So Georgia was sort of the poster child for this. Iowa, by the way, had a sweeping set of reforms before Georgia, and nobody noticed. And but then Georgia happened in 2021, and this is where the left went berserko, calling it Jim Crow 2.0, the president famously doing that. But you know it's bad when you're a lefty, and the president, Joe Biden, calls it Jim Crow 2.0, and the Washington Post calls him out for lying. It gives them their 4 Pinocchio pants on fire rating. I mean, that's pretty stark. They did the same with Jim Clyburn. So what did they do? They cleaned up and modestly shortened their early voting. They provided more security in the form of you having to identify yourself with mail-in voting. They secured ballot drop boxes. They didn't quite get rid of them, but they're all under video surveillance, for example. Texas did this too. And they got rid of Zuckerbucks. And by the way, about half the states have gotten rid of these Zuckerbucks, which were nonprofit dollars coming into election offices disproportionately in Democrat areas to essentially do Democrat voter turnout on behalf of the campaign. And those have been eliminated in most swing states. So, again, those are just some examples of the improvements that have been made.
Well, how are those Zucker boxes even allowed in the first place?
Well, I think that's somewhat debatable, but it's all after the fact. So now they come in because the debate about it is with respect to tax regulations, and that's under the control of the federal government, and the Biden administration isn't going to do anything about that. So individual states have to do it, and they have. Georgia, again, leading the way. They had a locality after they passed Zuckerbucks try to secretly end run it, and so they passed a second round of a different type of Zuckerbucks ban that dealt with a kind of a loophole they were trying to use there. So this has been a pretty hard press by those of us in the election reform space. And I will say, look, I'm a hardcore conservative and have been for many years, but I've never seen the whole right of center world, including the establishment folks, work together so long and so well on an issue as has happened for the last 2.5 years in the election reform space. And this is still going on. And everybody listening to you and me can participate in this. I was in Illinois a few weeks ago doing a seminar on this with Carol Davis and her group. They were recruiting and training election officials, not poll watchers, not the campaign folks, but the people who actually go inside and run the election. Your local government hires local citizens to run its elections because it takes so many people to do it. They bring in a ton of folks from outside. You, whoever you are listening, can go get trained and go do that. They'll even pay you a little bit of money to do it because you'll be working for the government. But you'll be on the inside. You'll be working the poll books. You'll be counting the ballots. And the more of our folks that are doing that, the better. That's how we secured the Virginia election for the Republican sweep that happened in 2021. We had an all-Democrat set of laws because the Dems got control for 2 years and made like 60 election law changes. It was a Mark Elias wonderland. And yet the Republican ticket swept. Well, how did we do that? How did we secure it? There with no changes in the laws. Literally with no changes in the laws, we flooded the election offices with our folks as election officials. So they were everywhere. And they did spot problems, and they stopped problems before they got serious. And that can work anywhere. It can work where you all live just as well as it worked where I live.
Well, there's the nonpartisan aspect of election administration, which you're addressing. Now, put one of your other hats on and address three little letters, VBM, the vote by mail programs where Republicans have gotten, their clock cleaned over the last couple of cycles, and what you see afoot in terms of playing by the rules of the game in states that allow for ballot harvesting and aggressive vote-by-mail programs. What do you see, if anything, that Republicans are doing differently in those swing states in particular compared to the last couple cycles?
So, first of all, the left doesn't really have principles in terms of what they seek in elections, the systems, the laws. They just seek advantage. And the way to get rid of vote by mail is to beat them at vote by mail, and they will gladly join you at getting rid of vote by mail. I beat my Democrat opponents when I was running in Northern Virginia for a state Senate seat repeatedly in vote by mail. It was much more limited then. You had to have an excuse. But we beat the Democrats. The Republicans around me didn't. They have no inherent advantage at this. They have no inherent advantage. Now, unfortunately, rolling out of 2020, then President Trump was telling folks on our side, no, don't do these other things. Don't vote early. Don't do this because it'll steal your vote. And in fact, it doesn't even matter if you show up. They're going to steal it anyway. And enough of our folks believe that. We lost both Georgia Senate seats, and the Dems hold them to this day. They literally cost us the majority in the Senate. And we have to fight with every tool available to us, whether that is early voting. And by the way, Glenn Youngkin did this in Virginia, and I remember listening to him on the radio in the election. He said, look, I don't like these rules, but these are the rules, and we have to win by these rules. And he's absolutely correct. And he was correct, and he won. And the rest of us need to be doing the same thing. And frankly, the people who are winning, the red wave in Florida in 2022, they used everything available to them. They did it all within the law, and they did it well. They did it better than the other side. And the results were astonishing. DeSantis led a near 20-point victory there, including in Miami-Dade County. Heck, they won the school board in Miami-Dade County.
And you see,
so
and
it can work.
And the question, well, I know it can work, but the question is, do you see it afoot writ large? Is the party infrastructure, the conservative movement infrastructure, moving in this direction to make sure that there are programs set up?
Yes, absolutely. And the culture is changing. That accelerated a lot with the poor performance in 2022. Maybe losing once should focus us, but losing twice had a very focusing effect. And groups like the Election Transparency Initiative that I lead are sharing full-blown legal information in the states, for instance, where you can ballot harvest. This is how you ballot harvest legally in Virginia, in Nevada, and so forth. and obviously in the states where you can't do that, we don't do that. But we are not rolling over for this for the other side.
All right. Now, recent polls show former President Trump remains the favored 2024 GOP candidate. I know you're working with Governor DeSantis. How should he handle? I mean, every 2 indictments so far, more coming down the line, but every time he gets indicted, it's a big news story, and he sucks the oxygen out of the room for all the other GOP candidates out there. What advice are you giving him?
Well, being at the super PAC,
You can't give him any advice.
Well, can't. Well,
yeah. We could lob comments in, but I don't know what happens with them,
right?
Because they can't talk back to us,
right? Understand.
And I don't really have the opportunity to even do that. So I haven't seen the governor personally during the campaign. I saw him at some speeches in the spring, but don't really engage with him. I do think that the nature of different indictments has differing responses. We all reacted to that New York indictment similarly. It was a clear, naked, brazen, pathetic, and I say pathetic as a lawyer, because the guy had to make up a new legal theory to indict him, to indict Trump. That was just a pile of dung. Unfortunately, the federal indictment, while still politically motivated, has more meat to it. And look, I was an attorney general. The fact that you can prove something doesn't mean you should actually bring the case. And the political destabilization consequences of bringing this indictment are very significant for our country. It should have never been brought. That being said, the president, unlike any of the other situations, was confronted and asked for these materials that are at issue, and he tried to hide them, which, God bless him. I mean, I loved working for President Trump, but he can be very self-destructive sometimes. And this is kind of an example of that.
Right, but even if that's characterization is accurate, and I'm not saying it isn't, even if that's true, Harvard-Harris over the weekend, 59% of Republican primary voters support Trump. Majority think that the prosecution is political. Majority of general election voters think he should be pardoned, even if he was convicted, for the interests of, I guess, political stability, as you were just describing. So the question is, these indictments and anything that may come now, regardless of the relative merits of the cases, they're all going to be seen through the prism of the last 7 years of the left doing anything and everything they can to get Trump. And I'm trying to understand where DeSantis or any other candidate thinks they have a path, given what the electorate is saying about their belief in what's happening to Trump, which is the entire focus of the primary campaign at this point.
Well, it's not the entire focus. This past weekend, the focus in Nevada was on Governor DeSantis. He was there for 2 days talking to veterans, running a huge event up in the northern part of the state around Reno, and they were getting introduced to him, and that was the response they were having. The view of the governor, but they don't know him as deeply as they know President Trump. And as people get to know him better, he does better. And look, we're carrying on the largest door-to-door effort in the history of presidential politics out of the super PAC. We're probably going to cross 300,000 doors today, having been knocked in the first 4 states. And that's only going to grow as time goes forward. So the more people we introduce to the governor, I think the better he's going to compete with that narrative.
Make sure you get our old friend Steve Cortez out there knocking doors, too. Don't let him just sit in the office. All right?
I hear you. I'm all about everybody doing everything.
But on the messaging piece, do you think, because, I mean, it's really since DeSantis entered the race, it's been pretty much static where Trump is and where DeSantis is, even in the early states. Is there something else on the messaging piece that you are planning on doing or you think the campaign should be doing?
Well, first of all, we respond to what we hear from voters.
Right.
And, we haven't even gotten to debates yet. We haven't gotten to the part of the cycle where the majority of Republicans who are going to be voting early even pay attention. So, yes, they answer polls. But if you dig down on those numbers, you'll find below 30% actually say they don't plan to switch. So this is still a very fluid situation. And if you go back 8 years, at this stage, there were 3 candidates above 10% and barely, and one of them was not Trump. So, we have a long way to go here. And it's not like Smokey and the Bandit, a short time to get there. We have a fair amount of time to get there. And we're going to use it. We're going to talk to voters one-on-one as the governor outworks every other candidate in the field. And he's doing that so far since he got in.
He is Ken Cuccinelli, National Chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative, former Virginia Attorney General, and the man behind the Never Back Down DeSantis-affiliated super PAC as well. Ken Cuccinelli, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good to be with you all.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You've made the switch, and it feels so good. You've switched to Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. Your business and your money are in good hands with Signature Bank. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Dan Migatz, co-owner and CFO of AM Woodland Outdoor Design in Mundelein, and a new customer of Signature Bank. We specialize in the creative design and construction of outdoor living spaces, providing our residential and commercial customers first-in-class landscaping services. Our company was founded as a one-man operation and today has grown into a multifaceted, one-stop shop for outdoor and indoor design and contracting needs. Signature Bank was there to provide the capital needed to grow our expansion efforts. We wanted to work with a bank that understands our business and is relationship focused. Signature Bank is what a relationship bank is all about. We're excited to continue our partnership for many years to come.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The Daily Herald 2022 Best of the Fox winner for Best Financial Planner is Total Clarity Wealth Management. The 2022 Reader's Choice Award winner for Best Wealth Management Firm and Best Financial Planner is Total Clarity Wealth Management. Are you ready for a change? Choose Total Clarity Wealth Management. With a professional team of financial advisors and CPAs, they can show you the way to financial readiness and keep you on track. Their philosophy is built on solid relationships and trust, with access to expertise in tax planning strategies, 401k rollover services, estate planning, and more. They can help you be ready for anything.
Hi, this is Terry Murphy. The cornerstone of our practice has been to help clients stay focused on their goals throughout life's changes.
Get in touch with them at TotalClarityWealth.com. That's TotalClarityWealth.com. Securities offered through LPL Financial Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Total Clarity Wealth Management Inc., a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial. Awards are based on number of reader votes. This award is not representative of the views of clients and is not indicative of future performance or services.
Nefarious, the #1 movie on Salem Now, is available to rent today. My wife and I strongly recommend this film. Nefarious comes from the filmmakers behind God's Not Dead and Unplanned. Sue and I turned it on. I thought I'd watch it for 20 minutes just to know what it was about. The movie was so riveting, I finished it, and I actually had lunch with one of the stars. I'm crazy about this film. Sean Patrick Flannery and Jordan Belfi give Oscar-level performances in this movie based on the book by Steve Deese. The woke critics hated it, but audiences have given it a 96% approval. And here are what others are saying. Matt Walsh, the filmmaker behind What Is a Woman, calls it excellent. Dinesh D'Souza calls it captivating, suspenseful, and profound. Charlie Kirk says the psychological and spiritual thriller may be a movie, but it contains far more truth about the reality of our world than most would like to admit. Visit Salem Now or your favorite video platform to rent Nefarious today, even though it's still in theaters. If you want to rent for your church or large group, visit movienight.com to rent it today.
Hi, this is Pastor Jim Scudder, and I just want to thank all of you that listen to In Grace every day here on WYLL. I would also love to personally invite you to come worship with us at Quinton Road Baptist Church in Lake Zurich. Every Sunday, we open up the Word of God, and we're just thrilled to find out what God has for us. We also are excited because we have an addictions ministry meeting every Friday night at our church, Quinton Road Baptist Church, and the addictions ministry is called Simple Steps. And every Friday, they minister to folks that have these stubborn habits and addictions. If you know someone in that situation, please refer them to simplestepsrecovery.com.
Visit our website today at simplestepsrecovery.com or call us at 800-78-GRACE to learn more and get involved. Together, we can take the simple steps towards a life of freedom from addiction. Again, that's simplestepsrecovery.com or 800-78-GRACE.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Queering Jesus. John Morawski, reporter with Real Clear Investigations, joins us at 8:08 to discuss.
Today we're going to have times of sun and clouds. High of 83 degrees. It is now 8 a.m. WIND, Chicago.
Trying to talk their way out of conflict. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Secretary of State Antony Blinken wrapped up a trip to China, meeting with that country's leader.
The fact that President Xi Jinping agreed to meet with Secretary Blinken is a sign both sides are trying to mend relations. But after 35 minutes of talks, the secretary said the U.S. is clear-eyed about the challenge China poses.
It's the responsibility of both countries to find a path forward, and it's in both our interests and the interests of the world that we do so.
Ukraine, Taiwan, North Korea and the economy were all discussed. Some vehement disagreements, though, warned Secretary Blinken.
That's Fox's Jonathan Savage. During the visit, China warned the U.S. has to choose between cooperation and conflict. A federal judge in Florida has ordered former President Trump's lawyers not to release evidence or retain documents in the case against him. Last week, the former president pleaded not guilty to 37 criminal charges related to classified materials he had at his Florida resort. The government keeps assessing a cyber attack believed carried out by Russian hackers.
The Department of Agriculture is reportedly aware of and investigating a possible data breach with a contractor. In a statement emailed to CNN, a department spokesperson says the possible breach would impact a small number of employees. Last week, the Office of Personnel Management was hit, and previously the Department of Energy.
Fox's Ryan Schmelz. That same hack hit some state agencies and private companies and universities as well. There's storm damage in Mississippi. Lewin appears to have taken a direct tornado hit late last night. At least one person killed, homes destroyed, trees and power lines taken down. And that's not the only area hit by storms over the weekend. There are about 500,000 southern power outages from Texas and Louisiana up to Oklahoma over to Alabama, and more bad weather's forecast.
Strong to severe thunderstorms will strike portions of the southeast and Florida today, with the risk of hail, damaging winds, heavy rainfall that could cause flash flooding and isolated tornadoes.
That's Fox meteorologist Janice Dean. America's listening to Fox News.
66 degrees. 8:02 is our time on AM 560, The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. An investigation continues following a deadly shooting near Willowbrook.
We just started heard a shoot come before we had us, so we dropped down.
Authorities say gunfire erupted early yesterday during an illegal gathering in a strip mall parking lot near Route 83 and Honeysuckle Rose Lane.
And out of nowhere, there was like a major gunfight for like 30 seconds. I'd say 60 plus, rounds.
One person was killed, 22 more were wounded. There is no one in custody. 2 are dead, 3 others wounded following a shooting at a park on Chicago's far south side in the Roseland community. An investigation continues after 2 15-year-old boys were shot on the far south side last night near 128th and South Normal in Chicago. Unofficially, 39 wounded by gunfire, 9 were killed. Divers in northwest Indiana pull a drowning victim out of a suburban lake Sunday afternoon. Assistant Chief John Reed.
Terrible tragedy in Hobart, but we must remind you about water safety. Please be safe in the water. We've had way too many incidents over the recent years, especially here at Robinson Lake.
Hobart Fire dive team members and other rescuers pulled the victim out at about 3 p.m. And a body found over the weekend in the Chicago River was that of a man who went missing during a concert last week on Chicago's north side. Noah Enos' body was recovered from the river Saturday in the 1300 block of North Elston. Cubs lost to the Orioles 6-3. 16 strikeouts for Lance Lynn, but he still lost to the Mariners 5-1. 8:03, time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now, the latest from the Fox Business Network.
Make sure that you never miss it.
I'm Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Microsoft is now admitting its disruptions of
Outlook Mail and OneDrive services earlier this month were caused by hackers. A hacktivist group had claimed responsibility, saying it flooded sites with junk traffic. Microsoft still isn't revealing how many customers were affected and whether it was a global attack. Microsoft claims there was no evidence of any customer data being accessed or compromised. There are signs of the economy slowing, though the job market appears to be holding up. It may just be that companies are responding by cutting hours and eliminating overtime. The Wall Street Journal says the average number of hours worked per week in private companies declined in May, below the pre-pandemic average. The markets are closed today for the Juneteenth holiday. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Cosolda, invested in you.
8:05, a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dr. Sebastian Gorka is on Team Trump.
If you support anyone except President Trump, it means that you're fine with political persecution based upon the fact that he's got an R after his name. I don't want to live in that America, and I would hope you don't too.
America First with Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
One of the most important decisions you can make as a parent is where you send your kids to school. But these days, it's never been harder to know which school is best. Public schools have changed a lot, and you might be thinking about sending your child to a private Christian school. But you also know that private school can be expensive, and in this economy, you might think it's not an option. Well, think again. With halfpriceschools.com, you can purchase tuition vouchers for half the price of normal tuition for private schools. For nearly 10 years, halfpriceschools.com has helped families from all over Chicagoland make the dream of private school a reality, and that can be the reality for you and your child too. Just go to halfpriceschools.com, search for a private Christian school near you, and purchase a voucher. It's that easy. Visit halfpriceschools.com. That's halfpriceschools.com.
Think back to a time when you were doing a physically demanding activity and you wanted to keep going, but you just didn't have the energy to. Having the right nutrition can make a huge difference between energy and long-lasting energy. That's why it's so important to nourish our bodies with the right kind of fuel, and there's no better way of doing that than with fruits and vegetables. You can get the benefits of 31 whole fruits and vegetables by taking a few capsules of Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies. Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751. or go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first order as a preferred customer. That's 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code Prager.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Born on America's darkest day of 9/11, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has been supporting the heroes who risk life and limb in the line of duty ever since. Jersey City Police Detective Joseph Seals was shot and killed in the line of duty in 2019, days before Christmas. He left behind his wife and 5 children. Tunnel to Towers immediately paid off their mortgage thanks to your generosity. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. That's T2T.org.
It's 8:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is a service of the AM 560 mobile app. Download the app or text the word app to 64636. The Kennedy, 26 minutes O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike inbound jammed up North Avenue to the Tri-State, 30 minutes in, 390 to the old post office. Jane Addams, exit and entrance ramps closed. Eastbound on I-90, as you head to the tri-state southbound, all diverted off due to a semi-tractor trailer. Trailer came unhitched, rolled over, and a possible cleanup is underway there. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Sun and clouds, high 83, clear and 62 overnight. Right now, 65 at O'Hare. Next news coming up at 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. TCU has a new course offering for the 2023-2024 school year.
Texas Christian University?
The Queer Art of Drag.
Oh, no, not TCU.
Will be taught by Dr. Anino Testa, also known by his drag persona, Maria von Clapp.
Ew. Well, Maria von Clapp, I mean, what Paramore is Maria von Clapp going to be teaching the class or the professor? Or different days for different identities? Who knows?
They think this is funny, these names they come up with, these sexualized names for their, of course, non-sexualized, innocent agenda.
Family friendly, yeah.
According to the course syllabus obtained by Campus Reform, the course requires students to create a drag persona, which is done through a, quote, drag vision board, a bibliography, a worksheet, an in-class lip sync performance, a storyboard, and a final performance. The drag vision board has two components: a series of brainstorming questions to help students begin to do the critical self-reflection necessary to develop a drag persona, and a collage of images, ideas, quotes to help students visualize their inspirations. Texas Christian University. That's correct, Amy. That's $60,000 a year.
I know my friend has 3 kids there.
Yeah.
Strong conservative Christian family, and sent their kids to that school. And wow.
It's interesting. I've mentioned this before about the polling on this, particularly in light of the Harvard-Harris poll over the weekend that finds supermajority of Americans opposed to things like the mutilation of children, particularly without parental consent, as is the zeitgeist in California and other states at the moment. But you have, shockingly, 25% to a third that see no problem with this.
Really?
And 10 years ago, this would have been 95%. So it's a reminder. You think the left is at all inhibited by the fact they start from a distinct super minority position, and then over time, and not a lot of time, with all hands on deck, piping agitprop through all their comm channels and through all the civic institutions that we've ceded control of, they move the needle and move the needle and move the needle, and all of a sudden you're looking around asking, what happened at TCU? What happened at my church? Marriage redefinition, try to find a reference to it before 1995. And less than 20 years later, the law of the land. You think you're winning? You think we're winning? Sensible people who believe there are two sexes, who don't believe in the sexualization of children or the mutilation of children. You think we're winning? We're losing slowly is what we're doing, in my assessment. For more on this, please be joined by John Morawski, reporter with Real Clear Investigations, realclearinvestigations.com. He did a piece on this recently that frankly, I think provides a lot of evidentiary support to my viewpoint. Queering Jesus, how it's going mainstream at progressive churches and top divinity schools. John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on your program.
So, right, Drag Queen Story Hour and gender ideology is welcome on the altar in many churches.
Apparently, it is becoming the hot new thing in progressive churches, and it's been established in divinity schools for years. And so we're lately just seeing it sort of bleed over into Presbyterian churches, Methodist churches, United Church of Christ, Unitarian, those kinds of more progressive worship spaces. And what they're celebrating, where these ideas come from, is something called queer theology, which goes back to at least the year 2000. It's been around pretty much for over a quarter century, which is this idea that the salvation or the redemption promised by God is to emancipate humanity from the prison of sin, but sin is really imposed on humanity in the form of cis heteronormativity, contractual marriage, and mandatory monogamy. And so when humans are released from these obligations, they can enjoy sex for pleasure, not even for pleasure, for ecstasy in any form without any restraint. So it really would mean polyamory and promiscuity. And so by implication, sexual reproduction is just a form of breeding, which is like the lowest form of existence. And when humans are liberated from that, they lead totally sexually liberated lives outside of a gender binary and outside of any confines, just pursuing pleasure for its own sake. And that's essentially the essence of queer theology. That there's a biblical basis for this, that the sort of the insights discovered by Judith Butler and Michel Foucault in the 20th century actually were already present in the Bible, except we just didn't understand it for 2,000 years because we were reading it through a corrupt lens of cis heteronormativity. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's actually in their books.
Oh yeah, and thus the need or the desire / need to separate childbearing from a marital situation from even a woman.
Yeah, they barely, queer theology it really doesn't really touch on childbearing, at least not in the books that I read. I read 6 of their books, and then I read portions of 2 others, and a lot of online materials. And I don't really recall much about anything about childbearing per se. It's really, sex is a question of pleasure. And God gave us this pleasure to give us an idea of what heaven is like and what the afterlife is like. And so we can enjoy, we have access to that now to give us an idea of what it's all about, this gift from God. And it should not be restrained in any way. It should be enjoyed to its fullest potential. And so the way that Christianity has worked is by creating a social construct called marriage, monogamy, cis heteronormativity, and imposing that on people to keep them imprisoned in these corrupt ideas. But this is not God's intent. That was the creation that's a corruption by people who had an intent, whose intent was to take over the church and control human beings. So, I'll just give you a quote from one of these queer theologians. Her name is Elizabeth Stewart, and she has a quote: "Sexual and gender identities have to be subverted because they are constructed in the context of power, and they are part of a matrix of dominance and exclusion." Right. So the reason we think of what you talked about as two sexes, that has to be dismantled. The only reason that exists is to harm people. There's no legitimate purpose for it.
Well, tell us what's going on at Duke University's Divinity School.
Duke University is like a lot of other very elite divinity schools. Wake Forest, Yale, Harvard. And what's interesting there is the students in, I believe, 2018 demanded a queer theology course. The students thought Duke Divinity School was too conservative because Duke Divinity School has its roots in the Methodist Church, and they had, sort of an older generation of theologians. And then around that time, one of their theologians, one of their scholars, was forced to quit because he publicly critiqued diversity, equity, and inclusion as brainwashing, and that caused a big scandal. I forgot his name, but he was forced to quit. He was sort of an elderly, gray-haired theologian, and a new generation came in, and students demanded a queer theology class, and now you can get a certificate in, gender and sex within the study of theology. And you're doing these readings. You have a whole website. In fact, I got my ideas on what books to read from Duke University. They have a website up of recommended readings in queer theology, and I used that as a guide. It was quite helpful because it pointed me to the core texts in this field.
Yeah, I can only assume that the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence will be enlisted by Duke Divinity School to offer a commencement address next year, be conferred honorary theology degrees. I mean, these are the priests and priestesses of the modern church.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that Duke last year, they're affiliated with the Methodist Church, and so as you know, the Methodist Church is in the process of splitting, and the United Methodist Church is the mainline denomination, and the Global Methodist Church is the breakaway, the more conservative denomination. And so they held a service. There's pastors in training. The students, the divinity students, held a service to celebrate. It was a pride worship service in which they glorified the great queer one, the fluid and ever becoming one. And they led off with a prayer that went like this: "You to God. You are drag queen and trans man and gender fluid, incapable of limiting the vast expression of beauty." And so these things, so queer, trans, gender fluidity, are elevated as the supreme expressions of divinity. Straightness and cis heteronormativity are the limitations imposed by social constructs to repress human beings from achieving their true divine potential.
What's the cultural endgame of the queer theologians, do you think?
Yeah, I know what it is. I can tell you. It's the elimination of all gender. So we would become genderless bodies. So everything that we've seen so far in the sort of progressive, sort of the evolution of progressive revolutions. So we've had women's liberation, right, feminism, and then feminism is supplanted by gay rights, and then gay rights is supplanted by trans rights, and then trans rights is supplanted by queer rights, and all of that is moving towards an end game. And that is ultimately, each one of these is a phase, and then the terms are changed. So if you look at the Human Rights Campaign website, they've actually replaced the term homosexuality. Doesn't exist anymore. It's no longer necessary. The term gay has been redefined. When you're gay, you're not attracted to the same sex. You're attracted to the same gender expression. So, for example, if you're a gay man, and then there's a person with female body parts who identifies as a male, if you're attracted to that female who identifies as a male, the biological female, that makes you gay as long as the person identifies as a male. So you're attracted. What you're attracted to is gender identities. So the terms are in queer theory and queer theology. Words have no fixed meanings. They're always changing and evolving. It's sort of like it's not like. In morality, it's called situational ethics, but here it's really like situational definitions and situational reality. So there's no stability in anything. It's everything is shifting, changing, moving, and that's like that's one of the definitions of queerness. And so the ultimate goal is for sex and gender to disappear from our consciousness, and we will just be bodies, and we will just be attracted to whoever we're attracted to without any awareness of any kind of social, we wouldn't notice anything else about them except we like them as individuals, as unique individuals. So you might be 78 years old and you might see a 21-year-old and you just might like them and then you might just hop in bed with them or you might have group sex with them. But you're not really aware of what they are, male, female, whatever. There's really no term for it anymore. It's just a unique individual. And gender essentially goes away. Everybody becomes a they, and there is no gender. That's as far as I can tell what the ultimate goal is, because that's what I'm reading in these documents.
Right.
Whether that's kind of an ideal. I don't know whether it's achievable.
And you could be a 60-year-old big tech CEO attracted to a 12-year-old, and same thing goes?
So, that's an open question as to how far this movement is willing to go in terms of what we call pedophilia, and some of them might refer to as minor attracted adults. We know that, for example, in the 70s, Michel Foucault and Allen Ginsberg were advocates for what we call pedophilia or pederasty. They were publicly advocated for that. But that part of the gay rights movement was separated from what we understand as gay rights. They were sort of kicked out. So whether they can reconnect and reassert, sort of revive that program or that agenda, I don't know. But, I would not leave, I would not assume anything at this point. I mean, it was once part of the movement, of the gay rights movement. It got taken out of the gay rights movement. I wouldn't assume it couldn't be revived. It sort of depends on how well people organize and how well they intimidate other people into submission.
Exactly right. So, it's just a marketing question. That's all it is. And they got half the Methodist Church and the Presbyterians and the Episcopals helping them out. So who knows what they could accomplish? John Murawski.
Yeah, I don't think it's a dominant view. I don't think it's a dominant view today, and I think it would be very controversial today. But, 5 years ago, it was not the dominant view that you could perform top surgery on a 15-year-old girl because the girl is a boy, and we could perform top surgery, and that is liberating that person from their breast. So 5 years ago, that would have been unacceptable.
I'm sorry,
without a parent's permission. In a sanctuary state like California. So, things have happened so fast, but I don't know what the world will look like in 5 years.
Right. Exactly. No, it's how a distinct minority can impose its wills on a dithering majority. John Murawski, reporter with RealClearInvestigations.com. Do check out his piece. We've been discussing Queering Jesus, how it's going mainstream at progressive churches and top divinity schools. John, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
You can host the best backyard barbecue when you find a professional on Angie to make your backyard the best around. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Inside to outside, repairs to renovations. Get started on the Angie app or visit Angie.com today. You can do this when you Angie that.
You can shed that fat, be slimmer for the summer. No more wearing cover-ups or T-shirts in the pool. NJ Diet will help you the natural way. There are no shots, no hormones, and no surgery. You'll lose a contractually guaranteed 20 to 40-plus pounds in only 40 days with NJ Diet. They use your hair, saliva, and blood work along with bioenergetic scans to personalize natural solutions and supplements that get your body into the fat-burning zone so you can finally lose the weight. Then NJ Diet uses DNA info to help you keep it off. Best of all, it's contractually guaranteed. You're fully supervised the entire time to make sure you're burning fat, not just losing water. And you even get Dr. T's personal email and phone number. Dr. T, Dr. Turovets, is the NJ Diet founder. Locations close by in Skokie and Oak Brook, or NJ Diet is available from home with live online video consultations. Call 855-5NJ-DIET or schedule your consult today at njdiet.com. That's njdiet.com.
Attention homeowners. When selling a home, the goal is to minimize your stress and maximize your bottom line.
Did you know you can set your selling price and closing date before ever going on the market? Don't go it alone. For over 35 years, the Wexler Group has been minimizing stress for homeowners. Choose one of their top-selling programs. Know your closing date and sale price before ever going on the market. The Instant Offer program allows you to sell fast. No hassle, no sign, no online photos, and no cleanup or clean out. With the Guaranteed Sale program, you'll explode onto the market, going for top dollar while already knowing your bottom line and preferred closing date. Either way, know your closing date and sale price first. With the Wexler Group at Keller Williams Preferred Realty, you choose the closing date and sale price up front, and we do the rest. Call 708-629-5151. That's 708-629-5151 or thewexlergroup.com. Make this move your best move ever. Tammy Northcutt and Ron Wexler are Illinois licensed realtors serving 100% of Chicago and its suburbs.
It's go time at Chula Vista. Time for you to discover Wisconsin's most complete resort experience. 70 years and 4 generations in the making. Chula Vista is 200,000 square feet of indoor and outdoor water park fun. Slides, kiddie pools, lazy rivers, the country's fastest water coaster. Chula Vista is 18 holes of classic golf, and there's mini golf. It's loaded with other family fun, a river walk, a monster arcade, 4D cinema, new thrills like zipline racing and a bungee ejection ride. It's dining alternatives, pizza to sunset dinner cruises to Wisconsin's #1 steakhouse. Hundreds of newly renovated room options, $10 million in updates. Wisconsin's most complete resort experience. It's all here. Everything your family wants. Check it out at chulavistaresort.com.
Chula Vista Resort is one of the nation's top 10 indoor water parks per USA Today's 2023 Reader's Choice Awards. Find out why at chulavistaresort.com.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Hi, we're Comparion Insurance Agency. Right now you're thinking, Comparion? Never heard of them. We know. We also know that you have no idea that Comparion Insurance agents are local and provide expert advice. So to help it stick, we're going to say local agent 4 times in the next 15 seconds. Ready? Go. Our local agents know you and your community. Our local agents offer insurance from top carriers. Our local agents have minty fresh breath.
Find us at ComparionInsurance.com. Comparion Insurance Agency. Local agents, expert advice.
And there's number 4.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
What are the prospects that litigation by those who are detransitioning will end child mutilation, that is? We'll ask Gerald Posner, investigative journalist and author of Pharma, Greed, Lies, and the Poisoning of America. Gerald Posner at 8:38.
But now let's head into that newsroom. Here it is, Mike Scott.
69 degrees at 8:32 on AM 560, The Answer. And good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Scott. Israeli helicopter gunships struck targets in the occupied West Bank during a gun battle in the city of Jenin. Violence marked a rare use of Israeli air power in the territory. A violent weekend left at least 6 dead, dozens injured in shootings across the country. Washington State, St. Louis, Baltimore, and Pennsylvania, where a state trooper was killed in an attack on a state police barracks.
Our hearts and prayers are with these brave troopers and their families. Their dedication and service to the Commonwealth and its residents will always be remembered.
Former Attorney General Bill Barr says former President Trump is putting his supporters and the GOP agenda at risk.
He's also a fundamentally flawed person who engages in reckless conduct and that leads to situations, calamitous situations like this.
On CBS's Face the Nation, Barr called Trump a consummate narcissist. The FBI and multiple state agencies investigating after dozens of letters containing a suspicious white powder were sent to Kansas state officials late last week. Secretary of State Antony Blinken meeting today with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing. Meantime, the chair of the House Intelligence Committee says China is beginning to feel heat from the U.S.
In addition to the spy balloon, the allegations of spying facilities in Cuba, the police stations that have been identified by the administration in the United States, they're spying on Chinese and American citizens.
CNN State of the Union hosting Republican Congressman Mike Turner. A violent weekend in Willowbrook. Authorities say gunfire erupted yesterday during an illegal gathering in a strip mall parking lot near Route 83 and Honeysuckle Rose Lane. Again, one was killed, 22 more wounded. No one is in custody. On Chicago's far south side, 2 are killed, 3 wounded in a shooting in the 9900 block of South Princeton in the Roseland community. Cubs blow a 1-run lead in their 6-3 loss to Baltimore at Wrigley Field. White Sox got 16 strikeouts from Lance Lynn, but the Mariners were 5-1 winners in Seattle. Wyndham Clark celebrating his first major, winning the U.S. Open at LACC. The news, a service of MyPillow. Big news, brand new MyPillow 2.0. Buy one, get one free with promo code LIBERTY. And a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher sees an alternative to Biden emerging.
What we do or don't say about Gavin Newsom won't change the political trajectory of 2024. You better be ready for him. And I've been telling you for a year that he is likely going to be the Democrat nominee for president next year. And I think his appearance last night with Sean Hannity goes a long way towards advancing that goal.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
Honey, I am like a different woman. I mean, finally one day I kept seeing that commercial and I said, what the heck, what do I got to lose? I started feeling a little bit better. I was doing more things. So I got my sister on them. I got my daughter on them. They couldn't believe the change in me. I can't say enough about them. I really can't. Those commercials that you all do is the truth.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order. That's 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
Hi, we're Comparion Insurance Agency. Right now you're thinking, Comparion, never heard of them. We know. We also know that you have no idea that Comparion Insurance agents are local and provide expert advice. So to help it stick, we're going to say local agent 4 times in the next 15 seconds. Ready? Go. Our local agents know you and your community. Our local agents offer insurance from top carriers. Our local agents have minty fresh breath.
Find us at ComparionInsurance.com. Comparion Insurance Agency. Local agents, expert advice.
And there's number 4.
8:37. Let's get a quick update on the roads in our Team Hochberg Traffic Center. It's a service of Verizon. You better make that next turn into a Verizon store because my plan from Verizon is the kind of control you deserve. Get exactly what you want, only pay for what you need. Get my plan at your Verizon store today. Kennedy sits at about 30 minutes O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Eichen stop-and-go traffic, 25th to 9th Avenue, 33 minutes in to the old post office. Stevenson is okay right now. Dan Ryan, without too many delays, we'll call it 16 from 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Still trouble on the Jane Addams, I-90 eastbound to the southbound Tri-State. Traffic is still being diverted off after a semi-trailer rolled over and a hazardous materials situation is being cleaned up. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Sun and clouds today, high 83, a low of 62 overnight, and no rain in sight until the weekend. 69 officially at O'Hare. Next news coming up at 9. And Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We're approaching half the country, half the states in America that would have laws prohibiting the mutilation of minors on the altar of gender ideology. About 20 states now. Louisiana poised to become the 21st state. But, of course, that just creates a situation in this country, as we have with abortion, where you have abortion tourism to places like New York, Illinois, California, where you have abortion on demand all 9 months, taxpayer funded.
Yep. And Governor Pritzker last week even said we will never stop transgender transition surgeries during a commencement speech at a law school at Northwestern. It had nothing to do with them graduating.
So maybe it'll require litigation against the medical community, doctors and hospitals and insurance companies, by those who transitioned under false pretenses, they would argue. They are arguing and are now suing. People like Chloe Cole, who's suing Kaiser Permanente. People like Kayla Lovedahl, whose breasts were removed when she was 13 because she thought she was transgender. She's now suing the doctors and hospital that oversaw the procedure, claiming they were in it for the money. Oh, you don't say.
It's going to be, what, a $5 billion industry by 2030?
She said she was pushed to entertain the erroneous belief she was transgender at age 11 after being exposed to online influencers. And she filed the suit against Kaiser Foundation hospitals and 4 doctors. They essentially handed Kayla the prescription pad and allowed her naive, emotional, childish roller coaster of feelings to dictate the so-called treatment that she would receive. And her parents, maybe they were enthusiastic, like Jazz Jennings' mom. Maybe they were intimidated into compliance, like so many, with physicians, in this case, allegedly telling the parents something you've heard before: it's better to have a live son than a dead daughter. If you don't do this, if you don't mutilate your child, he or she is going to kill themselves. Really, doctor? Is that your medical opinion?
Or personal opinion?
Well, increasingly it is, because this is what they're being trained to do. We were just talking to John Morawski about divinity schools. How about medical schools? Students at the University of Michigan Medical School are taught that basic anatomy is assigned by doctors at birth. AMABs and AFABs. AMABs and AFABs. Assign male at birth, assign female at birth. Those are the labels that are being used at University of Michigan Med School, created by Director of Anatomical Sciences, Dr. Kathleen Alsup. As Jay Richards from the Heritage Foundation said, such a categorization is the result of gender ideology that seeks to blur this basic reality in characteristically postmodern fashion. The adherents, including doctors at the University of Michigan Med School and many others, as Dr. Stanley Goldfarb, former associate dean at Columbia, has documented in his op-eds in the Wall Street Journal, its adherents seek to replace these biological facts with an unverifiable internal sense of gender called gender identity, and to reduce the fact of sex to a mere stereotype called sex assigned at birth. and on the road to oblivion are these doctors and their patients, more importantly. For more on all this, we're pleased to be joined by Gerald Posner. He's an investigative journalist and author of Pharma, Greed, Lies, and the Poisoning of America. He recently wrote a piece in the Journal that we discussed the truth about puberty blockers, since there's a lot of propagandizing by these ghouls with MDs about puberty blockers. Gerald Posner, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Thanks, Amy, for having me on. I appreciate it. And a moment ago when you were talking about what's being taught at medical schools in terms of gender sex is assigned at birth, trying to destroy the biology of it. I just wrote a piece the other day on my Substack about the Associated Press Style Guide, which is the 70-year-old, as you well know, style book is the leading style usage for many newspapers, magazines, newsroom, public relations offices. They don't just talk about any longer spelling and the correct style and what the usage should be. They actually say in there a dozen times that the term sex assigned at birth is what you should use instead of biological sex. Avoid terms like biological sex, biological male, biological female. So you wonder why you read most of the mainstream newspapers and magazines, and the media just follows along with this. And they even say in there, they actually get involved in the science. They say when writing about puberty blockers, remember they are fully reversible. That's absolutely wrong. The science contradicts it. So we have a situation not only where the medical schools are like this, but the media, the journalists, the reporters who are working for major institutions like Bloomberg, the Times, Washington Post, and others, check their style guides, and their style guides are telling them what they should be reporting in a way that's activism, not journalism, and it's disgraceful.
All brought to you by Pfizer.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, let's talk about those puberty blockers, because I watched What is a Woman, as I'm sure many other people did, maybe you included, but they interviewed a young lady who took the puberty blockers, and it threw her into menopause at the age of 15.
That's right.
What else do we not know about these puberty blockers?
So if you started puberty as a girl, a normal biological puberty, and then you're put on the blockers, you will start the equivalent of an early menopause. Some of these hospitals, like Boston Children's Hospitals and others, talk about gender-affirming hysterectomies. It sounds like you're talking about something from George Orwell or that, or some dystopian future in which, they are sterilizing girls essentially by doing a hysterectomy on a teenager, and they go immediately into menopause as well, plus many more problems for the rest of their lives. But puberty blockers, which they're trying to change the language of, remember, it's the same way in Florida. They talked about Ron DeSantis' bill, Don't Say Gay. They always give it a name that sounds as though, bail reform, so it's reform. Now, the Scientific American says instead of calling them puberty blockers, they should be called puberty pause. They know that must play better with some focus group who thinks, blockers, that sounds terrible. Pause, not so bad. But you're literally taking children who are put in charge of the gender-affirming process in America more than any other place. European sort of pro-transgender groups have urged their European parents who have difficulties in their own countries getting blockers for their children to go to the United States, where it's a much simpler process, where they don't have the waiting in the clinical process to examine the children because they don't wait. They try to rush it forward. And we know the numbers of children who are on these blockers who have all types of side effects and health results with bone weakening and everything else down the road. It has zoomed because of the contagion that you mentioned a moment ago when you talked about Jazz Jennings or what's on internet chat rooms or TikTok. We're talking a few hundred cases in a 10-year period before 2016. We're talking 20,000 kids that we know through insurance who are on blockers or cross-sex hormones in the last 5 years. The number's probably much higher than that. The gender industry is building its own momentum for money. You talked about $5 billion by 2030. I think it will be there significantly before that. And the pharma and medical people who are embracing this terrible form of medicine for children, they are looking at the dollars and cents in many cases.
Well, the puberty blockers, as I understand it from those who promote them, to pause, as you say, just to pause. It's indicating it's reversible, and Yeah, look, they have been used safely on children since the 1980s. We're told.
Yeah, that's the lie. You're absolutely right, Dan. So, and that was printed in the Scientific American recently. They've been used, safely since the 80s. Most people aren't going to do any other research about it, and so they think that's right. They've actually been used since 1998 by the Dutch. They were the ones who first rolled it out, and they had very small studies in which they said, "Oh, we think that they're safe." There has never been a clinical trial done on the safety of puberty blockers. All that we have, as a matter of fact, is the current sort of mass trial that's taking place on unwitting volunteers, and that's what's being done by our children in terms of puberty blockers. What we do know is that in 2017, 2016, the FDA received about 10,000 of what they call adverse event reports from women who were put on puberty blockers for an off-label, means not an FDA-approved purpose, not for gender, but when they were children to help them grow taller. And what happens, by the way? So you think, Dan and Amy, we can find out something about what happens when you give a puberty blocker to a child for another reason? It's the same thing, no matter what the diagnosis is. They reported thinning and brittle bones, teeth that cracked, a degenerative spinal disc, painful joints, radical mood swings. Some had suicidal thoughts, fibromyalgia. There's problems with cognitive issues and fertility. That should be enough to say, whoa, we aren't going to do this to our children who might be going through a transient phase as an adolescent because they've gone on an internet site and think that today they're a girl and tomorrow they're a boy and next week they want to be a superhero. But instead, what you mentioned in the lead-in is what happens. The parents are bullied into this in many cases where they don't know what to do because they're told by these activists, clinicians, doctors, and psychotherapists, if you don't do it, your child is much more likely to commit suicide. And guess what? The lie to that has been found in Sweden, in which one of the most progressive countries that used to put children on puberty blockers had a statistic. They cited in the government that 40% of the children who had to wait for affirmative, gender-affirming care thought of killing themselves. So the Swedes kept rolling out the medicine. And then the Swedish equivalent of 60 Minutes did an investigation a year and a half ago and said, hey, where's that stat come from? And they went to everybody who kept citing it over a period of time in newspapers and government officials. They brought it back finally to an LGBT activist group that had come up with it, but nobody could say where it came from. It had been pulled out of thin air, said so many times it had become a fact. It's cited by American organizations here time and time again. And it turns out that after Sweden learned it was a lie, they reversed course. And 2 years ago, they now make it much more difficult to get puberty blockers. Finland's done the same. Norway has done the same. Australia has changed its position that puberty blockers are reversible. England, just a week ago, decided after a scandal at its only gender youth clinic in which 35 clinicians had resigned because they had been forced to put in children that they thought were either autistic or gay or in periods of confusion into gender-affirming medicine like puberty blockers, which had worse results. The UK finally said, okay, enough. No more dispensing of puberty. Tavistock. Yeah. We're going to instead use it for research. But where are we? The United States is on the most progressive fringe of this, and it's being taken in part because of money. You know, you mentioned you have a governor there. You have Governor Pritzker, part of his family. Jennifer Pritzker is one of the big funders of transgender causes.
Right.
Money is being gone to chair for creating the positions of chair for sexuality. They're looking into surgery units at different hospitals. Hospitals are being paid to roll out gender-affirming care units. So there is a money line to this as well, which is startling when you think we're talking about children.
And I want to go back to the federal government. Oh, yeah, adverse outcomes you mentioned. Oh, we don't care much about that. The nation learned about how little the medical establishment cares about adverse outcomes during COVID, I think. But what has the FDA done, just in terms of, again, should we place any confidence in these federal regulatory agencies that we're supposed to be deferential towards? The FDA, when it comes to puberty blockers and these adverse outcomes and these studies that have been done in the other parts of the Western world, where has the FDA been?
Yeah, I mean, the FDA has been mostly missing in action, which is unfortunate. You know, the FDA allows, since 1938, they've allowed doctors to prescribe drugs that are approved for one purpose, for another purpose, off-label, so-called off-label prescriptions. And about half the drugs in America are given that way every year. That's how puberty blockers are given. So the FDA has never approved them. No studies have been submitted by any of the 5 companies who make these drugs to the FDA for the purpose of gender dysphoria, which is the treatment of these children, the medical diagnosis that gets you covered by insurance. What the FDA did is, because there is a treatment for which these drugs are approved for children called precocious puberty, in which children at a very young age, 5, 6, start to develop the signs of puberty ahead of their genetic, standing of the years ahead of where they should. They give it to slow that up. That's been studied, that has been approved, and still the FDA has added warnings to the label, so that in 2016 they warned that children taking them might develop new or intensified psychiatric problems. That might be a particular issue when it comes to children who are claiming to have a different gender, because transgender children are 3 times as likely as the general population to have depression and neurodevelopmental disorders, 5 times as likely to have autism. And then last year, the FDA added another warning to the drugs for their approved purposes, saying about children have a risk of brain swelling and vision loss. You'd think that would be a pretty big warning, yellow flashing light to clinicians who are prescribing them. But I bet you that most parents whose children go through it don't even know about it. And, there's a sidelight. I do think, having studied this and spent 6 months doing research, there is gender dysphoria for some children. There are some children who feel, and adults who are locked in the wrong body, but we're talking maybe 0.001%, a thousandth of a percent of the population who will go on to hormones and surgery and think that that's better for them. Here, what we're doing in the U.S. and in some other European countries is greatly overdiagnosing the number of children, and then having them make choices through medical treatments like puberty blockers or hormones that have permanent consequences. And how we think that could be all right, to me, is just mind-boggling.
Gerald Posner is an investigative journalist and author of Pharma, Greed, Lies, and the Poisoning of America. Gerald Posner, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Angie's List is now Angie, and we've heard a lot of theories about why.
I thought it was an eco move. Fewer words, less paper.
No, it was so you could say it faster.
No, it's to be more iconic.
Must be a tech thing. But those aren't quite right. It's because now you can compare upfront prices, book a service instantly, and even get your project handled from start to finish.
Sounds easy.
It is, and it makes us so much more than just a list. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
My name is Jason Hansen. I'm a former CIA officer and New York Times bestselling author. You can protect your hard-earned retirement assets with a tax-free loophole that allows you to convert your retirement into physical gold and silver. Advantage Gold is the nation's highest-rated gold company. They have the best process, pricing, and service. If you want to get your free gold and silver investment kit, please contact Advantage Gold right now. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000.
Advantage Gold is not an investment advisor or a tax advisor. Consult with your financial advisor before investing.
Call 800-900-8000.
Guys, a lot of people talking about testosterone, but do your homework and go to a provider you can trust. I've been recommending my friends at Low T Center for 8 years. That's where I get my levels checked. Low T Center exclusively specializes in men's wellness. They check all your levels, not just your testosterone, and determine the cause of any symptoms you're having, and whether you're a candidate for low T or something else like low thyroid or sleep apnea. Typically, their annual health assessment is completely covered by health insurance, and they check everything, including PSA, your prostate levels, as well as thyroid, liver and kidney function, cholesterol, glucose levels, and more. Low T Center has affordable and convenient options for treatment, including monitored self-inject treatment that ships directly to you each month, so there's no need to come to the center each week. Make your health a priority and schedule your annual health assessment at Low T Center today. It's covered by most health insurance or less than $100 cash pay. Visit lowtcenter.com to book your appointment online. That's lowtcenter.com. Tell them Dan Prof sent you when you do. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
It's almost time for the annual AM 560 Golf Outing presented by Signature Bank. And this year, AM 560 is proud to partner with the Tunnel to Towers Foundation to help them support America's first responders and military heroes, including homeless veterans, and to help America never forget 9/11. This year, our golf outing is happening on Thursday, June 22nd at McRae Memorial Golf Club in Barrington. When you purchase a foursome to join us, you'll enjoy a full day of golf, which includes lunch and either breakfast or dinner. Business owners, when you purchase a foursome, you'll receive 25 one-minute commercials to air on AM 560 to promote your business and a free digital marketing analysis. And this year, we have twosomes available in addition to foursomes. Reserve your spot today at 560theanswer.com/golf. That's 560theanswer.com/golf. Sponsored in part by Breakthrough Ideas, Mars Medical, ServPro, and by the Wilkins Automotive Group. AM 560, The Answer.
All right. Dan, good luck today. Where are you hitting the little white ball?
Playing an outing at Shore Acres for the Glenwood Boys School in Glenwood. Okay. I hope that's okay with everybody who knows I'm a Florida resident, that I'm participating in helping a school in Glenwood. Is that okay? Am I allowed to do that?
You can do that.
Or do I have to get Glenwood out of my mouth?
Thanks so much for making this part of your morning. Thanks to Justin Kosick, our technical producer, and Quinn McCarthy. And I'm sorry, he's our executive producer. He's off today, and Keith Conrad's in for him. Now let's head into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
23 shot, one fatally during a gathering.